Hi everybody, it's Derek again, and I'm here with SOF.
Hey!
Finally, we're able to talk to each other. I feel like we've been trying to figure this out for at least like 5 weeks, or at least a month, or something like this.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
Our schedules were conflicting so much.
And finally, I have time actually during the week to actually do this now. So it's like, finally I have a lot of time.
It's been great.
So we're just going to get into the regular programming, of course, guys. So we're just going to start off with daily wavelengths. What have you been listening to?
Ooh, recently, let me find the artist on Spotify. I can't remember his name, but I just found this new artist. He's not new. He's been around for a while, but I just found him. He is called, where are you? Toro y Moi, or Toro y Moi, and I've been listening to his stuff a lot, and I've also been listening to The Neighborhood a lot. I don't know why it took me so long to find The Neighborhood, but
is that like
Sweater Weather? Do you remember that song?
Sweater Weather.
'Cause it's too cold.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, I just found their stuff. I thought this whole time that The Neighborhood was The Weeknd. Like, I thought they were the same artist, and I thought Sweater Weather was by The Weeknd. And I just learned otherwise. And I really like their stuff, so if you haven't heard their stuff, it's pretty cool. You should listen to them.
What was the first artist you said again?
Toro y Moi, I think is how you pronounce it.
Do you know how to spell it?
It's Toro.
Toro.
And then space, and Y, and MOI. Like a separate word.
Y-M-O-I?
Y, and then space, MOI.
Okay.
I really like the song Lily. That's like the one I've been jamming to the most.
We're going to put this on our playlist, guys, for stuff we've been listening to. So, what I've been listening to for my daily wavelengths is, recently I've gone back to old Mariah Carey. So that is
like Charm Bracelet.
Yeah, Charm Bracelet. Whenever You Call on Charm Bracelet. Then I went back to her debut album for Someday. And then where else did I go? Then I went to E=MC² for the Record. That's a little known record, so that's one of my favorite ones. And all these songs will be put on the playlist like usual. Has there been any throwbacks? Like any throwback songs?
Oh, throwbacks.
Per se.
That's a good question. I have a period of time, I think every month, where I just get onto a Hilary Duff phase, and I just listen to Metamorphosis on repeat, and Most Wanted. And Britney Spears. I can always jam out to Britney Spears. No matter what album it is, she's so good.
Especially prime Britney Spears.
Oh yeah, when she first came out, she's killing it.
Yeah. I haven't listened to Britney Spears song in a while, but actually, no, that's a lie. Because now I have vocal performance, so I actually have to do background vocals for that.
Really?
Yeah, for my intro to performance class.
Wait, what
this
song
year,
are you guys doing?
Toxic. We're doing Toxic.
Dude, that's so good.
So I had to do backgrounds for that. So that's going to be interesting.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty much singing the whole time. I'm literally either doing background vocals or
Are you guys
lead.
doing the performance for it? Somewhere do you have a venue? Because for my performance class, when I took it, it was the first time that they had the class available. And we had to do, the showcase at the end of it in the studio room. So do you guys have a venue?
I don't actually know yet.
Okay.
We're just trying to get everything together still. So.
Okay. Well, let me know, because I want to hear that so bad.
I'll let you know when it comes out. Cool. I'll probably try and get somebody to record it too, just to see how it looks. Yeah. So, nobody noticed my phone. I don't know what the heck that is. I can't. Alright. Right, let's get back to this regular stuff. Alright, guys. So, I just want to talk about some news, some current news, and just get your opinions on it.
Absolutely.
And then talk to you about your career and like what made you start music and stuff like that. So we'll just play by ear.
Sure.
So obviously we both know us. We were both watching the Grammys, so we watched the Grammys.
Yeah. I saw the Grammys.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts about it? Like the opening number, like Kendrick's performance, or just performances in general?
Yeah, just candid thoughts.
Yeah.
I love Kendrick. I more or less recently started listening to Kendrick because I kind of stopped listening to like popular mainstream stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I wasn't even like really keeping up with music.
Mm-hmm.
You know when you get into that weird funk where you're just listening to the same thing over and over and over again and you don't want to hear something new?
Yeah.
I feel like I was going through that for a while, and I finally sat down, like probably this summer, and listened to Kendrick, and I fell in love with he's so creative and just like so talented, and that opening number was amazing when he came out, and oh my god. So I was obsessed. I thought that was great, and he deserved every award that he won. I think he's a genius. I thought Kesha's performance was so powerful.
Yeah, it was.
I cried so hard. It doesn't take a lot for me to cry, but despite that, besides all of that, watching that was really, really powerful, and it was really cool to see all the women up there singing with her and kind of like supporting that message and that empowerment. So I loved that. The Miley Elton John collab was dope. I thought that was really
It was really
sick.
interesting.
Yeah, I didn't expect
it either. So.
It felt like a really interesting, and like it was a combo that I wouldn't have pictured, but I ultimately thought it worked super well, and I really liked the way that they were performing together, and I also thought she looked, amazing. I love that dress on her. What else? There's so much. Despacito, that was a great performance, super high energy. Pink's vocals were unreal. Yeah,
as usual.
Yeah. Every time she performs, I'm blown away. And I loved how simplistic it was. I feel like the Grammys, it's a huge performance, and they always have artists that are taking it to the next level with the choreography and the stage setup and all of that. But I really liked that she kept it raw for that particular song, and just white t-shirt, jeans, and really killed it with those vocals. And the only other thing I could think to say is that I wish so badly that Lorde performed, because I love Lorde, and I was so disappointed that she didn't get to perform. So I hope that's something that changes in the Grammys to come, because she deserved a spot up there for sure.
For me, so obviously the same with Kendrick. The whole meaning behind it and whole just staging of it all, was just amazing. So, and then speaking as what the message was, it was such a big message to what we're going through now in the country. So it was an important message to be broadcast on the Grammys, such a big, important music show in the first place.
When you get a platform like that, it's so important. Yeah, I agree.
Then I would have to say, of course, I love Lady Gaga's performance.
Yes! Oh my god, how could I forget?
I love Lady Gaga's performance.
Great,
I didn't. What made me mad though was her makeup. I feel like the makeup was messed up. I feel like whoever did her makeup was just doing too much. So it made her look really glossy and light. And I don't know what it was.
I was sitting next to a couple of friends, and I kept turning over and saying that it looked like her eyes, like, I don't know how she was lifting them, because they looked so heavy with all the makeup that they put on
so
her.
I was like, I don't know why they put so much makeup on her. But other than that, the performance was good. It was like classic Gaga. It was like when she first came out, it was like a mix of between her when she first came out with like the extra popness and then like Joanne style after it. So it was just like a mixture. It was like a good mixture. So if you were a fan of her in the beginning, you could see like the cross, how it came to be now, like the evolution of it all. So I like that. I would have to say the Childish Gambino performance I was really happy about.
Me too.
Because I love Childish Gambino, and I feel like people don't give him enough credit for his artistry and creativity for what he does. So for him to come on and perform that way, and then bring out the little kid that's going to be on Broadway first. That was Simba. That was a great moment.
Wait, is that really what that was?
Yeah, he was going to play little Simba on Broadway.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so he's going to be little Simba on Broadway. I forget his name at the moment. I had to research that, and then,
I'm sure we'll all know in the next few years.
Yeah, so
phenomenal.
Yeah, and vocally, it was just like, because on his records before, he's not always like using vocal. It's more rapping.
Yeah.
So vocally, it's there, but it's not like throughout the whole stuff.
Right.
So like when it comes to his latest album, you hear more of the vocals.
Yeah.
That he has, and then just to see it translated on stage,
yeah,
and it's the staging, just the staging. It reminded me of like I don't know if you know Maxwell. Maxwell. I'm trying to get a song that you would know. This Woman's Work, like he recreated that.
Maybe I've heard.
You're the highest of the high.
Oh.
No one
yeah. Yes,
that's Maxwell.
Yes.
That's Maxwell.
Okay.
So he had a little tinge of that in his vocal performance. I could tell the influence from that.
I can hear that too.
And then I'm trying to figure out. I'm having like an interesting song choice too.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because at first I thought he was going to perform Redbone since it was a single, but that's it. But
it was Terrified.
Yeah, it was Terrified, and that's one of the songs that I liked. I think I liked that more than I liked Redbone, even though I liked Redbone. So it was nice to actually hear that. Moving on, because I can just go on a tangent forever about this. Who else came on after
there were the country performances too.
Yes, the country performances. I'm not actually into country, but like the vocally, it was there, but it was a little. I guess it was a little dry to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just me because I'm not really into that style. That it seems so dry to me, but.
Mm-hmm. I think they're different in their performance style, because you won't see a country perform. I mean, often I guess where it's like all out with choreography and like a crazy amount of staging. So I think it can be left to look dry. But I thought that the award to Chris Stapleton was well deserved. He's like one of my favorite country vocalists. I don't listen to a lot of country music either, but do you know the song Tennessee Whiskey?
I definitely heard that song. I know it.
That's him.
But yeah.
Not like crazy run. That's so good. Like he's great. So I thought it was well deserved. He's a great writer as well.
And then after that, so the Wild Thoughts performance.
Oh yeah.
While I loved it, I had issues with it. And this is the only reason why, is because at first I wasn't sure. Like when Rihanna actually came out, I wasn't sure if she was supposed to come out at that time. Like if she came out late or she came out too early.
Oh.
So like how the camera was panned towards her, and made it seem like she came in late.
Or she was like rushing in.
Yeah, or like she came in early. So I was like, this was a little interesting how this started off. But the choreography, I feel like the reason why I say that it was a little messed up to me is because of the placement. Like, I don't feel like the placement with the choreography was well placed. Mm-hmm. I feel like they could have used more of the stage for the performance than how they had it, because I feel like they tried to cram stuff in too much, and like the choreography looked a little bit too stiff at some points.
Oh yeah, I know what you're saying. There's too much going on.
Yeah, and like a little bit too much going on, and there was like hardly any space for like Bryson Tiller to come out and then like walk down the stage to actually interact with Rihanna. Right. And then he just sits on the stage just to make it seem like they're talking to each other. Yeah. Because they could just be walking towards each other throughout the stage and make it like a bigger performance. But other than that, I feel like the choreography was good. Just the spacing was a little bit messed up, just for the amount of space they could have used for it. SZA's performance, I was very happy about.
I think when did she perform?
She performed. It was like the second. I feel like the second to last performance before Bruno came on. She had a cheerleading outfit on. because she used to be a cheerleader, so that's why she wore it. It was like cut up, and then like she had like cut up jeans on the sides.
Damn, I missed it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, okay.
And I was very proud of it. Yeah, so this is what happened. So she didn't perform Love Galore or like Weekend or anything like that. She performed a song called Broken Clocks.
Okay.
It's a single called Broken Clocks.
Is it off the album?
Yes, it's off the album, but it was a single at first.
Okay.
So, but it wasn't as big, obviously, as Love Galore or Supermodel and then Weekend and stuff like that. So she performed that. So since it was not a well-known song, it was nice to actually hear it.
Okay.
So vocally it was good because at first, because me being somebody that is used to her style, knows like vocally what she does is a little bit different from what you would necessarily be like, oh, this is amazing.
Right.
But it's like you have to get into her aesthetic. But I feel like now that she's learning, because if she came in not being like vocally trained or anything like that, so I feel like that she's been practicing and it's been paying off. So like I was just very happy for the performance. I wish she won an award for Best New Artist, but like some of the awards were a little bit interesting.
I think they do it on purpose.
Yeah,
I was talking to someone about it the other day, but there's like a conspiracy theory that they have certain artists win certain awards so that people will talk about it more because people were expecting a different, winner. I thought it was interesting. I mean, I really love Alicia Cara. I think she's got...
I do too.
She's got an amazing voice.
I really do too.
I just don't know if she's classified as a new artist.
That's what I was saying too. I was like, I feel like she came out in like 2016.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I feel like she was around even before that.
Yeah.
When did Here come out? Didn't that come out in like 2015?
I was still in. That had to be like 2 years ago because I was still in before I transferred over here, so it had to be 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago because that was the first year that I was in the music. The only reason I know is because for my performance class when I took the intro to performance, we got split into like 5 separate groups, and my group did Here by Alicia Cara when it first came out. And that was like, 2 years ago. So.
It had to be.
I don't know why she's, I mean, obviously, again, I think she's a fantastic artist. It felt weird to put her in that category when she could have been nominated for so much more, so many different categories.
Because I feel like that took away from SZA, because I feel like SZA came out and kind of created a different lane than was already created, especially for female artists. Definitely. Talking the way she talked about relationships in a certain way that mostly men would talk about it in. So it's like a switch off that a woman is speaking in the same or like a similar way, but just in the, just explaining it like a woman would explain it.
Right.
So I feel like it was kind of interesting that she wouldn't get an award for kind of creating a lane, because if you think about new artists, you think of somebody starting a new trend or like something like that. Yeah. So that was interesting.
I disagree with that whole choice, that nomination category seemed really wonky.
Yeah. I kind of had as much as I do love Bruno Mars, I really wish that one of those awards went to either Kendrick or Jay-Z. Or Childish Gambino.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I really like Bruno. I don't listen to a ton of Bruno. I mean, I know obviously like his hit songs and stuff. I guess I was just confused because obviously 24K Magic was like a huge hit this year, but it didn't feel nearly as big as Redbone or Humble or you know, like
or 444
or any of those. It felt like strange to me that that was the last song that I expected to get, you know, or the album the song to win, and it was
because if I remember correctly, he got Record of the Year. He got all 3 of the big ones. Yeah, so that's Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Album of the Year, right?
Yes, the Album of the Year.
Album of the Year.
He won 5 awards, I think. I have to double check, but I remember seeing 5 as being the number.
He had to have. Let me see. I'll research that while we're talking.
So I'm curious. I do know he won a lot, though.
He did win a lot.
It was obviously well deserved, but it was also, I don't know. Like I want to respect the artistry, and obviously he's a super talented vocalist, but a lot of it too is that like it wasn't written by him. He has a team of writers.
And that's the thing. That's the reason why a lot of people have like an issue with it, because it's really more of him going back into like the late 90s, early 90s music.
Yeah, I can see
then
that
and then like bringing it back and then recreating it in a certain way to make it more poppy, like to take it out of what it was to make it more his style and just bring it out like that. So it's like a combination of like you really didn't like create anything to like be, and then it's like the album came out like in 2007. I mean, not 2017. Was it 2016? Or it was like it's one of those albums that comes in like before they missed the cutoff, but they're still part of the cutoff for the next year, and then the next year after that they're still part of that. So that's another thing that's like a weird thing about the Grammys too. It's like the cutoff dates are just very interesting about how they place albums. And
well, it's definitely calculated.
Yeah, it's very calculated, and that's
you have to think about the artists that release music at a certain time that miss that cutoff, so that they can get the next 2 years worth of Grammy titles. Like that's
smart.
It's smart, but also like come on.
Because there's a lot of stuff coming out, and then going on that. What was I talking about? To just lose my space. Oh yeah. So what was I talking?
We were talking about Bruno. We were saying how he has a team of writers, and it was something that...
Oh, yeah. So, and then it's just like I said before, Childish Gambino, like somebody that's from the beginning of his albums has been doing a lot of different things with the kind of context of it, the like instrumentation of it, and then like the social commentary on both Jay-Z's album and Kendrick's album. It's like in this time, I feel like we need to give respect and credit to artists that are taking advantage of their platform and speaking out on issues that need to be addressed.
Totally.
So I feel like it's like, even though I was surprised, I really wasn't surprised, because I had a feeling even before the Grammys, I was like, Bruno Mars is probably going to get it because this is more commercial. This is more, I kind of saw it coming, unfortunately. But I usually do see it coming because since it's more like fun records, it's not really talking about much.
I wonder, though, if it is coming from the same place, like socially and politically. Because if you think about it, people speaking out on issues are going to get the recognition that they deserve, like Humble and like 444. Even though it didn't obviously gain recognition at the Grammys, that maybe some people think it should have. But in a way, I wonder if people can... And again, like, there's also all the conspiracies about the Grammys being rigged and, like, the people who vote, if they're actually qualified at any level, whatever. But taking all of that aside, assuming that all of these awards were given to whoever garnered the most votes, I wonder if people picking an album that is more fun and doesn't cover any political and social issues is picked in that way because people are like stressed. You know what I mean? Like people want to like dance and have a good time. And they want to forget about that kind of stuff. Whereas albums like Humble and albums like 444 really bring light to those issues and really bring it front and center. And it's something that like you sit and you listen to and you like vibe with because it's something that you respect and it's something that you agree with. But 24K Magic is something that you listen to and you're like, I just want to have a good time. Like I'm out with my buddies and like having a few drinks. So I wonder if you're blowing up.
I don't know what's going on today. Whoa, that was interesting. Sorry about that, guys.
Party.
Sorry about that, guys. I was not expecting that. I don't know what's going on. All right. Anyway,
I wonder if that's where it comes from. Like, you know, that kind of thing gaining as much popularity as it does, and like songs like Despacito and songs that are like, you know, more fun and upbeat and aren't about any issue in particular, or just like, you know, no nonsense lyrics and that kind of thing.
I did have that in mind too. That I feel like, but I feel like it's more. let's see how I can phrase this. I feel like it's because we like to be distracted of the issues that we need to actually tackle, and the reason why things have not changed the way they should have been changed by now. When you think about it, some of the things that we're still dealing with should have been changed a long time ago.
Yeah.
But when you really look back at history, it's only been 60 years at most, 60 years or more, that like me and you would actually be in the same school. Me and you would be in the same school. Me and you would be talking to each other right now with no issues involved or anything like that. I wouldn't have the right to vote for the president at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's just interesting when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like when you think about like the women's suffrage movement, that wasn't that long ago when you really think of it in the grand scheme of things. The pay wage for women, and then if you go into the intersectionality of black women and black men, that pay gap, it's like, it's when you think about it, it's not old, but you would think by now it would have changed.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like albums and singles like Despacito and like Havana and like albums like 24K Magic, they're used to, like, I guess, relieve stress.
Yeah.
I know it's to relieve stress, but I feel like it's also a distraction.
Yeah.
Because it's distracting us from what we need to fight for.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I wonder if some artists too are just like, you know, that may not necessarily want to use their platforms for that. Too. Like, I feel like it's neat to have different sections of artists that like to sing about certain things. Like, you would never hear Taylor Swift singing about, you know, like a movement, any kind of movement, really. Her thing for the longest time, and I guess now, was a little bit different, but it's always been relationships, and now it's about, like, you know, being a badass or something. I don't even know what she's doing now.
I don't know what she's doing now. I'm really confused.
I liked the new album, but I don't know entirely what she's going for. But I think there are kind of these subcategories that artists want to put themselves in that they may necessarily, like, they might vibe with more than certain issues and things. But I did really appreciate that all of the artists that you named were diverse artists, like Bruno and Camila Cabello, and, you know, and I think, and even Despacito being a song in a different language entirely, like, that's really cool. Yeah. So even in times like these where we're having a lot of social and political issues, and there are things that we're distracting ourselves from, it's nice to see that the music that is popularized is from diverse artists. Yeah. I really respect that, even if it's, like, not a commentary. It's cool to see artists like Bruno and, like I said, Camila Cabello, you know, representing their own communities. I think that's really dope. Yeah.
Overall, I feel like the Grammys was okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
I wasn't blown away.
I really wasn't blown away. It wasn't like there was like it went from like high moments to like very like low, like ethereal, like I'm not really interested in it moments. And
actually,
then some of the skits were just too corny for me.
They were really cheesy.
Yeah, so it's just like
I was laughing actually for a while that the spacing that they had between acts was super strange. Like, you had Despacito come out, and then following that was like Kesha. Yeah. And it was like this really like amped up, like, let's party, to like Kesha's like, I was, you know, in a really rough situation, and like crying hysterically. Yeah. I'm like, wow, this is really strange. Like, one minute I'm really excited. I wish they had grouped more of the upbeat and energetic performances.
Yeah, and like to one area, like, or just had like I guess like have it be at like Kendrick's performance, like, started off, it was like high energy, like it was still talking about something, a big message, but it was still energetic, a big performance, and you were interested in it. Yes. But I feel like if they like might have placed Wild Thoughts probably in the middle.
I agree.
Or Despacito at the end, or like whatever order would make sense, just to have something. in the beginning, middle, and end to keep the momentum of it, and then somehow place like the Pink song. That was a message song, and that was more toned down. I feel like if they did that, they put Pink before Praying. I feel like the effect of Praying would have had a bigger effect than it did.
Yeah.
After Despacito.
Yeah.
So I feel like some of the placement was off.
Yeah.
And then like how I said with Wild Thoughts, the staging was a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I feel like the space in between performances, like when the skits and like when Corbin came out, I feel like that was a little bit rushed too.
Yeah.
So like a lot of stuff seemed a little bit rushed and like they were trying to do a little bit too much than necessary. So I feel like that probably made it seem like a little boring and
it felt all over the place.
Yeah,
and
a little.
It felt like a kind of a roller coaster at times.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to feel. There was like a moment where I was crying because Kesha's performance was so powerful and Pink's performance, but then like a minute later, it was Wild Thoughts.
Yeah,
and I was just really confused.
Yeah, and I was like, because when it first came, because like I said before, like when I didn't know that if she was supposed to come out at that particular moment, because and then like I'm still trying to wean off of what I just saw with Kesha.
Right.
So it's like you go into like such a serious topic, and again, it goes into the conversation.
Yeah.
Is it like, oh, we're talking about this moment, but we're really just gonna gloss over it right now because we want to distract you with something that's just more fun and happy and stuff like that. So it kind of makes you think like, were they just doing these moments just to have them on there so people would give them credit for actually talking about certain things?
Yeah, the placing.
The placing seemed like it was just to make sure that we said it, but we're gonna overshadow it with something that's more fun and upbeat. Because even the performance with Alessia Cara, Khalid, and Logic, the whole suicide prevention song that he has, with the suicide number, it seemed like because after that I forget if it was another upbeat song after that.
Right.
So it's like you're talking about suicide prevention, and then here's another happy song.
Yeah.
So it's like
I didn't necessarily want them to put like all of the happy songs together and then all of the sad songs together.
Yeah,
watching that would be really taxing too.
Yeah.
It was definitely like what you said with pacing.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the biggest problem for me watching it was going from something so extreme and polar on one end to the complete opposite end.
Yeah.
I wish it was more.
I feel it was like more middle ground.
Down. Yeah.
Middle ground.
Like performances like, I mean, even Wild Thoughts, it wasn't like, it was a great performance and it was upbeat and fun, but it wasn't like Kendrick's performance. Yeah. Kendrick had a whole thing that was very, I don't know. And
it was very, and like again, the spacing, it was very staged well. It was like very spaced out. Like he was using pretty much the whole stage for his performance.
Yeah.
So like, and I feel like if Wild Thoughts, if they put a little bit more planning into it, if they used the whole stage, it would have been something bigger to bring the energy back up.
Totally.
So I feel like it was some missed opportunities, I would say.
Are you do you follow Ariana Grande at all? Are you into her music?
I like her. There's certain songs on her albums that I like, but not all of them.
Okay.
As a songwriter, I don't connect to her as much. Like on certain songs, I connect to her a lot, and in certain songs, I just don't. But that's always with artists. Sometimes you connect, and sometimes you don't. And then sometimes you have to go back to the albums after you go through a certain situation to actually understand what they're talking about. Yeah. So maybe that's just what it is.
I kind of wish she had performed.
I do.
The only reason I brought her up. She's such a good performer.
I do too.
It felt weird that she hadn't been asked in any capacity. She had a lot of like bangers this year too. Yeah,
she had a lot of stuff this year. I felt like, especially with when they were talking about the whole incidents with the killings at shows.
One Love Manchester?
Yeah, because I was like, they talked about it, but you noticed the mic situation. There was like a mic situation where you couldn't hear the lady talking about it.
Yeah, when they were doing that, the country artists, they were singing that song for,
Yeah, and I was talking, and we were talking about it in our sound reinforcement. Sorry guys, we're talking about like school stuff. But I know you know Barb, right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about in the class like the reason why that might have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So like
it was clearly a technical error.
It was like a technical error. So it was like mimicking a mic because the mic was working actually in the actual venue.
It was
the
probably
Grammys.
not feeding through to the actual.
Yeah, but it was feeding for the broadcast. It was messed up.
That's okay.
So for a broadcast, it was feeding from somewhere else. So there was like feedback and like people speaking from behind the scenes, and it was going into the mic for the broadcast as well as that. So it was like
that was such bad timing.
So it was like bad timing, like those issues, like when the specific moments, serious moments. It's just like, why is this happening during this part? Yeah. And then like certain because I would have when they were going to talk about it, I was like, I feel like Ariana Grande should be up there talking about this.
Totally.
Because it was
she has like first-hand experience.
Yeah, it was first-hand experience, and the reason why it was publicized pretty much was because it was her concert. Yeah. Because it was across over the seas, and then she's like a big artist. She's a big, well-known artist. So it happened at her concert first. Yeah. So but
yeah, I mean, I think they were referencing the shooting in Vegas,
and the shooting in Vegas too, and then
which I forget. Was it Kenny Chesney who was performing? Do you remember who the artist was? It was a country artist that was performing the night that it wasn't Kenny Chesney. I wish I could remember who it was, but I remember he was performing, and that's kind of why the country artist came. Started talking about it, but I thought it was, definitely Ariana definitely deserved a place on that stage to be talking about that
just
too,
to talk about it, not even to perform, just to talk about it. Because
she was there too. I saw pictures of her.
Yeah, it was just interesting. Yeah. And then like, especially like during the boring moments, everybody was like, "Where's Beyonce at?" And then when Beyonce came in late, everybody started talking about Beyonce instead of the show. So it's like it's a lot of like interesting stuff that really we should be focusing on the show and like what the messages are on stage.
Did you see that Blue Ivy clip, by the way?
Yeah,
she's like hushed her parents.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
It was hilarious. I was like, little kids just are hilarious because to her, she's like, they're just my mom and dad. Like they're nobody. Just
can you imagine though? Like, your parents being two of the most successful people in the music industry.
Yeah,
and like you can't fathom that. It's like your mom and dad.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Like it's just like Diddy, like and his kids. It's just like they're like best friends. Like him and his kids are like best friends. Like they don't even look at him like, oh yeah, dad's this and he's did this with his life and made all these big business moves and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To us, it's like, oh my god, that's your dad.
Yeah, and then to him, he's like, you're just my dad.
He's my dad.
Like to other people, he's Diddy. To him, he's Daddy.
Yeah, it's like it's not that romantic. I've been living this life all my life. It's not that interesting. Yeah. Calm down.
Chill. Everybody deals with it.
Yeah. So let's get off the news thing for a while. I just want to talk to you about you.
Sure.
So I guess what made you get into music?
I feel like I've just always like been involved in it. It's something that I've just always really loved. When I was growing up, I would run around my house and I would just like be screaming like new lyrics on top of songs that I was listening to on the radio. Mm-hmm. My parents would take long drives with me all the time, and they had mixed CDs in the car. And it was like the weirdest mix of songs you could possibly put on a CD. Like my dad loved mixtapes. And it was never like, here's the Beatles and like some classic rock bands. It was like the Beatles and then random Italian music and Russian dance pop. And because my folks are both Russian. And when they immigrated, they went through Italy. And so they had just like a bunch of random, like apparently popular Italian music that we'd listen to in the car. So I grew up on like Italian and Russian music and Russian classics, but then also like Russian pop and American pop and then American classics, mm-hmm. like and then also like British rock, the Beatles and really popular like the Who and all of that. So I grew up on like a really strange eclectic mix of music, mm-hmm. And I just fell in love with singing every time I was in the car. I always had to sing. And I would be running around the house, like I said, just screaming melodies, screaming new lyrics on top of songs. And I was like, I'm going to be a songwriter. I'm going to be a singer. I want to perform. I always wanted to put on concerts for my family members and my friends. I was like the weird kid in school. I would get up in front of the class, like on any given day, and I'd be like, I learned a new song I want to perform. And everyone in my class was like, shut up. And my teacher was like, oh, you're so cute. And like all the teachers really liked me, but all the kids were like, you're the worst. And I always wanted to perform. And I loved it. And I was like in first grade, and my teacher was like, what does everybody want to be when they grow up? And like Joe over there is like, I want to be an astronaut. And she's like, good luck. And, you know, talking to like little Becky. Becky wants to be a veterinarian. And I always said singer, just like from the first time I was asked until now. It's just always been the same answer. So I don't know, I guess it was just a mix of having a lot of different music influences in my life, with listening, just strictly with listening to music, but then also my grandfather was a drummer back in Russia, and so he always talked about playing in a band and playing live and how much he loved doing it. And my parents aren't musical at all. Like my dad's tone deaf and my mom doesn't sing or play any instruments. She used to play piano like when she was a little kid, but I think she like forgets all of it. And so it wasn't even like I grew up in a musical family. It's just something that always intrigued me and piqued my interest. And it's always been there.
Speaking of influences, like what are your influences and how do you feel like it affected you creating your own particular style of singing or just writing?
It's hard. It's hard to answer that. I find that to be one of the hardest questions because there are so many different artists that I listen to, and I draw influence from so many random things that aren't necessarily an artist's sound. Like, I am so heavily influenced by Lorde, but not because I think my music sounds at all like Lorde's music or like even lyrically I'm similar in any way. It's just certain aspects of her performance style, certain aspects of certain songs that, you know, maybe the material that she's writing about, the context. I love Ed Sheeran's writing. I think he's an incredible songwriter, and I've written a lot of songs inspired by certain phrasing and certain context, again, that he has in his own songs. I love Eminem as a lyricist also. I find that a lot of my own lyric writing in particular is super I love doing witty, like
catchphrases.
Yeah, like phrases that'll double meaning stuff. And internal rhyme within an already a rhyme scheme that's already there. And I just love his stuff lyrically to kind of base off of with, like I said, rhyme scheme and lyric writing and gotcha phrases. But also Taylor Swift, as a songwriter, a melody writer, she's got a lot of really catchy things that she does in her own music. So it's just sometimes it's a flavor of the day kind of thing. Sometimes if I go to write a song and I'm influenced by another song I've heard, I've been influenced by electronic pop music that I heard that was some techno weird thing. And I was just I like that one thing that they did in there and I want to draw some influence from this. So it comes from a variety of different places, but often my influences are things that I've experienced and then certain artists that I've listened to in that given period of time that I've experienced, whatever it is I'm writing about, that have kind of influenced a particular sound or a melody or a lyrical idea that I'm trying to experiment with. So to answer your question, it's a horrible answer.
It's not a horrible answer. It's really what...
It's hard to boil down to one specific artist. Because I find myself so influenced. And I think a part of the problem that I've been facing in the last year or so is trying to find my own sound.
All right, guys, we're going to take 1 minute break. a minute break for this, and we'll be right back. All right, bye. All right.
Did something happen?
No, it's just running out of time.
Oh.
All right, hi guys, we're back. Continuing the conversation. So if you were talking about your influences, how it's kind of hard to like wean it down to a certain like artist that you use for creative purposes to create your own style in a certain way.
Yeah.
So
I've had a hard time with trying to hone my own sound. In the last year, I did a lot of experimenting with the music that I did release. I released 6 singles, and each single was kind of a different genre. Just because I was experimenting with writing styles and production styles. I was working with a producer who was literally taking all of my ideas that I was giving to him, and I'd say, like, make it sound like this, and he would just do it. And so now I think the challenge is kind of sitting down with myself and being honest and saying, this is what I sound like as an artist, this is my own sound, who I want to be, as opposed to, like, trying to be everything. Because I think the problem I have is, like, whenever I write, I'm like, I could be a rapper, but I could also be a country artist, but I could also be, you know, a pop artist or whatever. And it can be really hard for me to settle with one sound, with one idea, because I want to be everything. Like, I have so many ideas, and it, like, sometimes you have to just kind of sit down and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to stick to. So I really want to get better at that this year, and I want to release music this year that is truly me and is, like, much more clean and fits exactly what it is that I'm going for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I feel like that's the I don't know if you know Tinashe. Tinashe, two on No More Drama, No Drama. It was her new single, No Hands on Deck.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like a person that they wanted her to be pop. Like, they like her to be a pop person.
Yes.
But if you listen to her mixtape, she's more of an R&B. More of a she's like a lot of different styles. So it's like hard for her to choose one. So it's like kind of fitting your creative aspect of like just being very creative and not wanting to fit into one box.
Yeah, and then it's hard because if you want to be marketable, you have to fit into that box.
Yeah, and then that goes going back to what we were talking about before with like somebody like a Kendrick Lamar or like a Childish Gambino. They're more eclectic in their choices of a lot of stuff that they choose and a lot of stuff that they write about. Exactly. So it's kind of
a perfect
perfect example of that, because
especially with his last album he released was 2005, right? Is that what it was called?
The album before, the last album he put out was Awaken My Love.
Yeah, and that was the newest.
And then that was the newest,
with
Redbone. And then before that, it was 3000, I think. What was it?
I thought it was 3005, but I couldn't remember what it was named.
What's the name? Because I have it, so I forget what it was. But before that, it was, again, like, this is more sultry and more of a vocal album. Yeah. Compared to his previous album, which is more rap focused. Yes. So it's like he's, and that's why I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for being the creative person he is, again, because of him being so broad in his thing. So you can't like particularly like put him in one box. Right. And I feel like that's probably one of the issues I kind of have with the industry is the fact that it kind of pigeonholes creatives into a certain box. And if you're creative, you really aren't in one box, because you can go from listening to, especially if you just love music, period. It doesn't matter which genre it is. Like, a certain song can hit you from any genre and change your whole life around. Absolutely. So I feel like that roadblock, and I feel like it's just because it's at the end of the day, it's still a business. Right. So it's business people in charge of creative people, and that divide and that like coming together is always hard. So I feel like that's a reason why it's a little off. But going off of songwriting, so you said that you try to use personal experiences mostly to write your songs, right? Correct?
Yeah. I don't know. There are artists that can draw from things that haven't happened to them or things they haven't experienced. And I've definitely written songs like that before, but they feel less genuine to me. They don't feel like I wrote them. I've done co-writes with people where we'll write about a topic, and it may not necessarily be something that I entirely have experienced or agree with even. But for the sake of the co-write, obviously you have to put your heads together and come up with the final product. And while I end up really liking those songs, there's a quality about it that doesn't feel 100% like I'm in it. I wrote it, and I had a part in making it come to fruition and be finished in the way that it is, but it doesn't feel home, I guess. Yeah. So I like drawing from my own experiences. And I think there's a million different ways to say the same thing. And so I think that's why it's really cool to write music about your own experiences, because even if it's something as simple as like falling in love, there's so many different ways you can express falling in love that doesn't just have to be you saying you fell in love. Yeah. And I think that's really neat, is being able to take a topic as broad and as vague as love, or even like the opposite of that. Maybe you can't stand someone. I've written plenty of songs about people that I had like a beef with, and I like wanted to get something off my chest, but I am too, scared and like a wuss of a person to like say it to someone's face. And obviously, like, I don't want to be going out and like fighting with people if I could just like write a song that like will therapeutically make things better for me. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, there's just a ton of different ways I can say the same thing, and it just feels strange pulling from an experience that I haven't had to write about something when I could pull from something that's already there.
Yeah, makes sense. Again, another question I have for you. If there was anything you could particularly change in the music industry, what would you feel like you would be able to tackle and change?
That's a good question. I don't know if I would necessarily be able to change it by myself, but it's something that I would want to tackle and bring more light to. And that is the treatment of women in the industry. While women are most certainly represented, and I can see that, even with like the women who were nominated for awards and the women who came up and performed on the Grammys, and all the female artists that obviously exist in the sphere. It's not necessarily an issue with representation of women, more so than it is an issue of how we're treated, and I think that's something that is being tackled right now, but I would like to add my voice to it. I've had a lot of friends, and I've had my own personal experiences with really inappropriate behavior from men, and not even just like, I mean, yeah, like men, but also like coming from a standpoint of the industry and executives treating female artists in a way that they get away with because they're of this like higher position in the industry. I went to a songwriting retreat back in March of last year, and it was in California, and I had the opportunity to co-write with a bunch of different artists. And what was really cool was one of the days I was placed with these two women who were these like incredibly like strong-willed, like very intelligent, very self-assured, and just like super talented women who were songwriters. And we sat down and we were like, what do we all have in common? Obviously we're all, chicks, and, we rock, but what can we write about? And we're like, oh my God, it's so easy. Let's just write a female empowerment song, like about saying no and meaning it. And the two women that I was working with, one in particular, was telling me the story about this producer that she was working with, who was a higher name in the industry, and they had a contract together, and he was acting extremely inappropriate toward her, treating her not only in a way that was like way too touchy, way too grabby, sexualizing, but also just like super condescending, super misogynistic, like you're not as good as me because like you're just a woman. And it was so disgusting, like hearing her recount of the story with this guy who like got away with it and like was never really truly penalized for his actions. It was just like, oh, well, I guess we won't have a working relationship. It's done here. And it was just like insane to me that something like that was just brushed off by the team that she was working with because like, oh, well, he's a really like well-known producer. Like, let's not tarnish his name. Yeah. But like his own actions were enough to tarnish his reputation. But the fact that like he's allowed to do whatever the heck he wants to, and he'll get away with it because like we can't bother like, you know, having his image look bad. But meanwhile, who cares about whoever he hurts? It's just insane to me. And it happens so much. And I had the opportunity to get, you know, a little bit closer in the industry this past summer and hearing stories about like sexual misconduct and like inappropriate situations at work with bosses in the industry. It's just like, how are we here after all this time? Like, how is this still happening? Yeah. And it's talked about, and it's great that there's the Me Too movement and like all of that happening right now. But it's like another thing entirely to have something actually be done about it. Yeah. And we sat down and we wrote this song, and it was called, like I said, No. And the whole song is just about telling off this producer. And like, I've had instances where I've played at shows and men talk to me like these creepy old guys that are just like, oh, like you're so pretty, like sitting at the bar, like catcalling me. And I'm like, I'm doing my job. Like if I'm playing a show and it's like even a cover gig and I'm getting paid to be here, like you wouldn't come up to like a waiter or a waitress or any kind of staff that's working at, you know, you're going to Lowe's, you're not going to start catcalling the woman who's helping you get something down from a shelf. Yeah. Like, that's insane to me that you think that you have that authority to talk to me like that and to make me feel uncomfortable. I've had friends that have played gigs. One friend in particular plays cover shows here in South Jersey, and she had some experiences with a man who was literally stalking her and would come to every show and wait until she was done her set so he could follow her to the parking lot while she was unloading. And it's just insane. And like, it's being tackled verbally. People are like, yeah, this needs to stop. But, like, no one's, like, I don't know. I would want to add my voice to it. I'd want to add fuel to the fire there because it's something that really bothers me and something that obviously affects me, too, as a woman in the industry. So, yeah, I don't think that I could single-handedly fix it. I don't think anybody truly could. Yeah. But having it brought to life and having one more voice to add to that fire to say, like, hey, this is real and this happens and this is so not okay, could hopefully at least impact one person, maybe. So that's what I would want to include myself on.
Yeah, and I feel like this that issue happens even more with less known artists. Yeah. Because you're trying to climb the ladder of becoming an artist, so people feel like they can just give you whatever they want. Oh, yeah. You just do whatever they want to you. Just to be like, oh, this is what you just have to go through to get where you are. Yeah. Like, and even after, like, before the Golden Globes, like, Mariah Carey even talked about it. She was like, I'm still waiting for them to start talking about how the music industry is. Like, there was an interview with her just talking about it, like, we still need to talk about I have stories about the music industry from my own life that I could just talk about like, the issues that are a part of the industry. So it's, like, interesting. Even big names are starting to talk about it, like Mariah Carey.
That's great. I'm glad they're coming out about it. It's just... It's crazy that there are people that don't believe it, too. Yeah. Like, how do you not? There's so much.
There's a lot of stuff we like, again, what we were talking about. We like to be entertained. We like to be swept away and be distracted from a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has been going on for, like, centuries now. Yeah. And still hasn't changed. And it's sad when you think about it.
Yeah, the entertainment industry as a whole is really sleazy. I've heard a lot from people who are more into like the acting side of things, and it's scary.
And and I always find it more interesting, even not to say that you would people that are more logical or stuff like that wouldn't do the same things, but I feel like as creative people and like we're so open and we're so like more inclined to be accepting of differences.
Yeah.
That you would think that we would understand some of the reasons why people have an issue with certain things, and we wouldn't do specific things.
Yeah.
So it's just like, as a creative person, as somebody you're around a lot of different people, that you would understand everybody, at least try to understand each other's struggle.
Yeah.
And try to make at least that day of their life better.
Yeah. By
treating them with respect and dignity and stuff like that. I just feel it's a little bit interesting, kind of hypocritical.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Totally. I think the people that are in denial about it, though, aren't involved in the industry.
Yeah.
I think even, like, with the Weinstein thing that came out, there were so many celebrities that were like, yeah, I knew about it. And it's like that is mind-boggling. Like, so it's clarified here that this is something we all know is happening, something that's clearly an issue, and it's no secret, and there's no denial, but you're not helping each other out. Like, there's no real, because there's repercussions if you say something, if you talk or speak out against somebody of that
caliber,
that caliber, that has that big of a and it doesn't even have to be a following. It could just be accolades that they've acquired over the years. I mean, like Weinstein. If you threaten to talk, his legal team threatens to sue you for everything that you have. And that assertion of power is so corrupt, and it's so gross, and it just goes unchecked for the longest time until one person finally breaks the silence, and then people start slowly but surely coming in with their own stories, and then you realize, hey, this is something that's been going on for a really long time, and something that they've tried to address, but has gone unaddressed because you could lose your whole life. Everything that you care about, everything that you've worked hard for, could just be gone if you say one word about it. That's a huge problem.
That's sad. And then not even just talking about the music industry, but when you think of what encompasses the music industry as well, the fashion industry.
Yeah.
So you think about that. Like on The View, I think like a few weeks ago, there was 3 models that came out, and male models. They talked about sexual harassment and how, which is something great. And then like, I don't know if you know Terry Crews.
Yeah.
When he came out about sexual harassment.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And then he's been, you notice that we still have a lot of double standards.
Yeah, I think that's also something that isn't addressed nearly as much as it should be. But like,
because men get sexually harassed.
There's no real representation of that issue, and when it is brought to life, you have a lot of people saying like, "Oh, like suck it up, be a man about it." It's so toxic.
It's even more and it's even more sad when it's because you expect that from men to say that, but from women, it's still the same verbiage. It's still like, suck it up, deal with it. Like, in other words, like, deal with it. Like, we've been dealing with it forever, so you just deal with it too. Yeah. So it's like, it's one of those interesting things that unfortunately clouds not even just the music industry, but the world. Like, we still need to talk about what goes on in regular workplaces with bosses treating their employees like trash and sexually harassing their employees and stuff like that. That doesn't get talked about.
I think there's this really interesting thing that goes on with people in terms of mental gymnastics, where they think that because something's been happening a certain way for a long time, that it's okay because that's the way things have always been.
Yeah.
And it's like, if something really... Can I curse on you? If something really shitty has been going on for a long time, and everybody can agree that it's shitty, why would you want that to be the norm? Why would you want to continue that trend if this is something that you have so many voices on? Like, I can understand if, like, one person came out and said something was like, I don't even know, I'm not good at analogies, but if someone was like, I hate, when my boss says you did bad today, like, which is fine. Like, a boss can tell you, you can have criticism.
Yeah.
But if one person came out and was like, we shouldn't have criticism anymore, And then people were like, hey, like, criticism is good. It helps people learn. And, you know, there was, like, a small movement of people. I can understand people being like, hey, like, this is really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, criticism is necessary in order to improve.
Yeah.
But if this is something that's been going on for a long time that a huge number of people are speaking out against and saying, this is not okay, I can't understand why anybody would be like, oh, please, like, it's been going on for years.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then make it stop.
Yeah.
Let's maybe make sure it doesn't happen for the next few years that come in the future.
Yeah. I think it goes into the aspect of if it's not affecting me or my family, I don't really care about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and that goes into a lot of different issues. It's like LGBT issues. Like, you see, like, certain Republicans now, like, they were against it, but, like, somebody in their family or, like, immediate family, it happens to be part of the LGBT, now you're for it. Yeah. So it's like, it's like human nature, unfortunately.
It is.
It seems like that's just part of human nature, that it's predominantly, I need to survive by myself.
Yeah.
And you can kind of trace that back to the beginnings of time, where it was like hunters and then hunters and gatherers.
Right.
Like,
you're only looking
for out yourself and your village. Everybody else on the outskirts is not part of it.
Like, I get that in a zombie apocalypse maybe, when you're like, I need to survive.
Yeah.
But, like,
I feel like it's like we've evolved in many ways, but we still haven't evolved in, I guess, our way of thinking about the next person.
It's empathy.
Yeah.
We don't exercise empathy to the extent that I think that we should. And I don't know. I can't really fathom an argument where people say that empathy is a negative thing, because in every case that I've seen people exemplifying empathy, it's been a great outcome for everybody involved. You know, people. I mean, that's why philanthropy exists. That's why there are charities. You know, like, helping other people ultimately makes you feel good, and it's a good thing to do. It's rewarding to see somebody, at least for most people, it's rewarding to see somebody else benefited by something that you did to help them. So, like, why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, even if it's coming from an inherently selfish place, if you were to say that philanthropy is inherently selfish because it makes you feel good at the end of the day, if it benefits somebody else, who cares?
Yeah.
Just, like, don't be a dick. Yeah. You know? Man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then I feel like social media has even worsened that aspect of it. Because it's made us become a little bit even more closed off. As technology grows, I feel like we become even more and more closed off from the people around. Like, even I've noticed in my own life, like, because, like you, like me and you grew up around the same time, so we grew up before, like, cell phones. Like, when we got a cell phone, we literally got it, like, probably, like, high school or, like, late middle school. Yep. Like, we didn't grow up with technology at all. No, not at all. So there was, like, a learning curve with it. So
I feel like I've become more socially awkward because of having.
And I feel like that too. Like, I feel like I was a little bit more, even though I was very quiet and I'm still pretty quiet, like, naturally, that's just naturally my personality. But I feel like even with friends, some of the freedom that I used to have between us, like, just to talk naturally, is kind of gone and kind of lost because it's we're always on our phones, and then, like, even, like, with this podcast, it's like I have to create a certain, like, image on social media. I have to constantly post up videos and constantly put up content so people stay interested in it. And, like, I don't know if you can talk about it for yourself, because you have an Instagram page and you do, like, what is it called, like, Sophia Mondays, like, certain Monday things, like, just to keep people interested in your content. Can you, like, talk about that for, like, a few minutes?
Sure. I was doing it actually last year, and I'm switching off to something a little bit new this year. But last year, every single Monday of the week, every week, I would post a new SOF Music Monday, and it was basically kind of a free-form Facebook video that I would put up, whether it was, like, a live me just chatting with people and asking people what they're up to, performing live on Facebook Live, doing like a Q&A. And then sometimes I had pre-recorded covers that would be put up, but it was every Monday, and it was just to fill content. And it worked out really, really well. I got more of a following on the internet from doing that on a weekly basis, and it was really cool to kind of build my audience and meet people. But like, again, are you really meeting people? Yeah. It's online. But yeah, it was a little bit taxing, I found, to have something ready every Monday. I think it would have been a lot easier if I wasn't here. But being that I was playing gigs and writing music and doing schoolwork and going to classes, and then also having to have this priority every week, there were some weeks where I just straight up didn't want to do it, and I was like, well, I have to, so I would like get ready really fast, and I'd come on and I'd be like, we're doing a Q&A, or like we're just hanging out today, I'm going to play a few songs, and you start to kind of fall out of love with doing and posting content, because it feels less like this is an original idea that I created, and here's like a song that I pre-recorded that I'm really proud of. And like, while there were certain projects that I posted that had taken time and like were done months in advance, for the weeks that I didn't feel like posting something, or I didn't have content ready for that week, it was just taxing. Like, it was just exhausting. I wasn't necessarily enjoying myself on those weeks that I was like, I have to post something, but you have this kind of obligation to post on social media and to keep everybody interested. And it's hard to balance, I think. I think if I had, like a team of people helping me out, and if it wasn't just me doing everything by myself, then it wouldn't have felt like such an annoying obligation. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy doing it, because there were certainly a lot of times that I did. But like I said, on the weeks that I had like finals, or I was like in another state because I was like with my family, or like my boyfriend and I were doing something, on some random Monday. I think Christmas fell on a Monday, actually, this year. And I was at his house. I think so. I was at his house on Christmas, and like there wasn't going to be any point in the day. I didn't have anything pre-filmed because I had finals and then break and Christmas, and it was all stacking up, and I didn't have any time to film anything. And I was at his place, and there was no point in time I was going to be like, hey, let me just step away from your family right now that I'm really enjoying my time with, and like step off in the other room and record a SOF Music Monday. So it's hard to juggle. I am doing something a little bit different this year, where I'm just posting one video every month, and it's going to be SOF Music Monthly instead of Monday. But that's going up on Friday of this week. And I'm doing a vlog style video as well as a song cover. So I want to do more like original stuff this year too. I want to put up like pre-recorded videos of me like singing, singing songs that I've just newly written. And I think I'm going to start incorporating that too. But the first one that I'm going to be putting up is on Friday. And I'm still deciding if I want to do like 2 videos, where like one is a vlog and I'm going to put that up, and then I'm going to put up a separate cover, or if I'm just going to encompass it in one video. I have both of them like filmed and ready, so I just don't know how exactly I want to post them yet. But that's going to be kind of the plan. And it gives me time to plan everything out and to not worry for, like, I have a whole month to do it. So I think it'll make it a lot easier on me, and I can focus on writing more. And I really want to focus on playing some more shows once I graduate. And just, like, getting out there with songwriting and with releasing music and kind of honing who I am as an artist.
I'm just going on that tip, actually. Do you have any like singles you want to promote, or anything that since you were posting content like this week on Friday? Do you have any upcoming performances around the week or next week or somewhere around there that you want to talk about?
Sure. Well, actually, I don't have anything coming up performance-wise for a little while. Oh my goodness, for the past, how many years now? I started when I was 15, so like 7 years. I've been playing cover gigs, where I would just kind of like go to restaurants, wineries, bars, whatever, and I would play for like 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, just cover material, and I did that as kind of like a part-time job on the side, so I could make money. And I decided officially at the start of this year that I'm going to be quitting. I have some gigs lined up already that were like pre-booked way in advance. And I think the last one is actually in December of this year. So I still have somewhere to go, but I just decided I don't want to be doing cover gigs anymore. Like I don't like playing. I like playing other people's songs if I have like something interesting to add to it. Like there's certain covers that like I have a lot of fun with because I really like the song and it's fun to perform. But sitting for 4 hours and singing to a room full of people as background music has just always been something that kind of sucks the life out of performing for me. So I think I decided I'm gonna quit, and I'm gonna be focusing on doing bigger gigs. I started off the year performing at the Strand Theater in Lakewood. And it's this really big venue, and I opened for this like Fleetwood Mac cover band, or tribute band, sorry. And that was like a really cool performance, so I really want to do more of that. I'm looking to actually be involved with the Lantern Fest again this year. Last year, like over the summer and in the beginning of fall, there's this, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's like Chinese lanterns. Like you light them up and then they fly into the sky and you watch them.
I don't think I've heard that.
Can I show you a picture?
Yeah.
They're so cool, dude. There's this like huge Lantern Fest and it goes on every year. There's like a few different organizations that do it. But the one that I was involved with was literally just called the Lantern Festival. And that, let me see, Lantern Festival. I'll show you like a picture of it. It's so pretty. But I was asked to open for 4 separate events. And the biggest turnout, I believe, was 17,000 people for one of them. And it was like the most surreal experience I've ever had. Like it was so cool. This is what it looked like. It's sick.
You know, it's cool.
And they wait until at night, and like I had the performance at like 7, and the sun would start to go down, and then by the end of the night, like people were lighting their lanterns, and they would fly up into the sky, and it's so cool. So I really want to do more with that. They're traveling to a bunch of different states, and I was just speaking with the promoter of that event about which states I could possibly be in on. So I really want to do some traveling. I'd love to like tour if I could do that. That would be amazing. And I really want to get like a band behind me because that's something that I haven't had. I really want to get musicians behind me that are like committed to touring and like going out. And it's been hard to kind of find people that are like committed to actually going places. Because I find that people are like, oh yeah, like I would love to be in your band, and then like they won't show up for a rehearsal. So once I can like guarantee that, then I'm sure it'll be a lot easier. But aside from that, actually today is a year from my first single release.
Great.
Yeah.
Can you tell them about the single?
It was called Ghosts.
Ghosts.
It was released on all digital and streaming platforms last year, a year ago from today. And it was something that I had worked really, really hard on for like a year beforehand. Not just that one single, but I had this single series project that I did last year where I released one song a month for the first 6 months of 2017. And definitely a really interesting thing to do as an artist that doesn't really have a huge following. I saw this band that I really like called Oh Wonder that released one song a month for a year, and they built up their following by doing that. But I think the difference is they had like a major distributing deal. Yeah,
so that always helps.
So it like was on Spotify on playlists that were recommended to me. And I was like, I could try that, and then did it and was like, oh, but how are people going to find me if I'm not on a playlist?
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of stuff.
Still working on that. But I did that, and that was interesting. And I have 6 singles out on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon and all those fun places. But I really want to actually get like a music video done for one of those songs, or maybe even a new song that I might release this year. I have some songs that I have written that I'm really proud of that I think are kind of going in a new direction with my music. And kind of in that direction I was telling you about with like honing my sound and really like understanding who I am as an artist and like not pigeonholing myself necessarily, but like finding a place for myself where...
Like trying to find a foundation.
Yeah, like a sound that is like, that's definitely SOF.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want to get that finally established this year. And it kind of falls really nicely with the fact that I'm graduating in May.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll have all of this time now to focus on my music and not have to balance 30 different things. I just started a part-time job too, so like now I have that to focus on for the time being until I graduate, and then inevitably, I'm homeless. But yeah, I really want to kind of get school out of the way so that I can really take this as seriously as I've been wanting to my whole life, but it's kind of been... It's not necessarily been put on the back burner. Like anytime I've had an opportunity while I've been in school, I've taken it, and I don't care if I miss however many classes I need to. If it's something that's going to improve my career and like bring me in a direction that I've been trying to go in. But it's definitely been harder to do certain things or to travel to certain places, being that I'm broke and in college. And yeah, it's a tune I think everybody here sings.
Struggle.
It's frustrating. So I want to be done so that I can just go out and like do everything that I want to do.
Going off that, and then just speaking on like the whole topic of the cover bands and you feeling like and just doing stuff and feeling like background music and stuff like that. And then, like, the feeling taxed by doing stuff weekly, and now you're changing it to, like, a monthly plan to make it seem a little bit more authentic than it was before.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it, because, like, even with this podcast that I'm doing, like, some weeks I couldn't even record. Like, before, like, with Brittany, it was a scheduling issue. Like, sometimes it would be scheduling issues. We're both in college, school, and inevitably, we're learning about the industry we're trying to be into. So it's important to us to get all the knowledge we can possibly get.
Right.
So sometimes stuff has to go on the back burner. And like even just keeping like interest on it has been like something very interesting. I've seen that even on the YouTube channel now that I have a YouTube channel, I post the podcast on there. It seems like while there's interest in the podcast, it's not necessarily shown on YouTube, but it's more shown on like Spreaker, which is like the system I use to actually bring the podcast to life.
Okay.
So it's more of a content switch. Like there's more people for Spreaker that just listen to the podcast on this certain platform. But like when it comes to like the reaction videos that I have, like between like me doing it or like me and Brittany doing reaction videos, it seems like that gets more views, but even that doesn't get like either likes or dislikes or comments or stuff like that. So it's like hard to feed in. So sometimes I understand like it feels taxing. It's like, why am I still doing this? And nobody's like really appreciating it or like even viewing it. Yeah. So I understand it. And sometimes it gets like other creativity. Like I had this idea for this long, and like it was a creative idea, and like so many ideas, and then it's like nobody's really listening.
Yeah.
So it goes.
No,
it goes into that aspect. But just talking to like people that I know, and like just the reason why I even came up with this whole idea for it is because I feel like there's no podcast out there that talks directly to either college students or just unknown artists, period. That just talks about the inner workings of it.
Yeah.
And then talks about everybody that's part of creating what we see on the big stage, like the Grammys.
Right.
Like, we don't talk to the creative designers. We don't talk to the songwriters. We don't talk to the fashion designers.
Right.
We don't talk to the photographers. We don't talk to the videographers.
Yeah, there's so much.
We don't talk to the choreographers. We don't talk to them. So, like, my main purpose of this whole podcast was to try to bring light. And from the beginning, it's obviously going to be more often that you hear, like, a singer come on,
right,
or a producer or, like, a rapper come on.
Yeah.
Because they're, like, the main thing that you look at when you get on stage. So, obviously, they're going to be trying to get as much publicity as possible. But I've been trying to, because I have even friends that, like, are into fashion. It's like fashion designers and stylists and stuff like that. So it's like one of my duties, in my opinion, to try and get a little bit more diversity with the whole, because what I'm talking about is the music industry, and the artist is not just the music industry. There's a whole bunch of people that need to be recognized for it. So again, I think we're going to take another short break, guys, and then we'll be right back. Okay, guys, we're back for another point of this conversation. I'm just going to talk about a quick news story. Since we're talking about the Grammys, I was looking at some like music business news stuff, especially about the Grammy Awards, since we were talking about that. And then here's a good thing, because I didn't even know there was like rumors about for the Grammys that it would be like a tribute to like Aretha Franklin.
Oh, really?
And like there was rumors about it, and that like Jennifer Hudson or somebody was supposed to perform about it. But I just looked at Billboard today, and it seems that Jennifer Hudson is going to play Aretha Franklin in a biopic. So
that is so cool.
So yeah, so I was just reading about it. And like if you go on Billboard.com and go to the news panel, it just recently went up at like 10:30 today. And it's like Jennifer Hudson talking about how she's just like she's just very humbled by the fact that Aretha Franklin would want her to actually portray her. So it's like something interesting, and I love Jennifer Hudson anyway, because she started on American Idol and was literally told by Simon that she will never like work again.
I'm so glad you knew that. Yeah.
And the whole fact that Dreamgirls happened, and after that, it's like every time she's on stage, she just electrifies it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and then you have this.
She's such a powerhouse.
Yeah, and then this, and then it's not even just that, but she got to, when she won her first award, it was given to her by Whitney Houston, who was one of her idols.
Wow.
And now she's getting to play one of her idols. And so it's like,
I can't imagine.
Just
can you imagine like being her in that moment?
I don't think I could do it. Like, I probably would faint. Like, to be honest, like, I don't even know if I could do it. Like, there's so many artists that, like, even me as a singer and like a songwriter as well, it's like hard to like be like, oh, like if this happened, like I don't know if I could like fathom it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's like certain things that happen even just starting to perform, because I've it's been so long. Like, I just started like a few years ago performing, just singing in church, and I like it's always been something that people have been telling me I should do, like, because like I've always singing around the house. My parents just yell at me all the time. Like, you're always singing. Like, just go somewhere and sing.
Yeah, that's a very familiar story.
Yeah, and like, because I'll just sing around just randomly at night, like when they're sleeping, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, can you shut up? Like, we're trying to sleep." And I'm like, "But this song is on. I had to see it, and I'm trying to figure out this. I'm trying to figure out this run because it's not coming out this right way."
You do that too?
Yeah, like I literally, like you should see me. Like literally, I like before you even came in, I was looking at videos and practicing runs. Like,
wait, have you ever gone on Breaking Down the Run?
Or
Breaking Down the Riffs. That's
Breaking Down the Riffs, and what's her name? Oh God,
I know exactly what you're
because Avery Wilson was on there,
mm-hmm.
and I love Avery Wilson. That's another thing we could talk about that. But yeah, I go on certain things, like, and even that, like, I watched one video and I watched a specific video with Avery Wilson on it, where mm-hmm. she was breaking down the runs of the song that he sung, certain songs that he was singing and mm-hmm. certain songs she was singing. But it's always interesting to me. I'm kind of like, I classify myself as a music nerd because I literally will like research. It's like a rabbit hole. Like once I start, it's like you go down, and then like by the end of the day, it's like, oh, you almost missed class today because you're researching this, and you should be researching homework and doing this thing. So it's like,
I mean, kind of are.
Yeah, this is pretty much homework when you really think about it. So I just wanted to talk about that, and I just had a news article talking specifically about what we were talking about before with the whole issues of sexual harassment in the industry. Mm-hmm. So
I mean, even I thought it was great seeing Kesha get up there with
Mm-hmm.
all of those women behind her, and like Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Baby Rexha was with her, I think, right?
And then Andra Day was there. I love her. I love her voice. She has a timeless sound to her.
Yeah.
I just live for it.
I thought that was really cool that they came up. I do wish it was, like you said, with the pacing, it was highlighted better than it could have been. It was definitely a big moment, and there's no denying that, and people were talking about it, but I do wish that thematically they had either stuck to a theme.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they had so many things that they were throwing out in the Grammys, all of these different issues that needed to be highlighted, but I wish that they had stuck with either making it entirely about that versus like this weird, here's an issue, but then let's gloss over it with some poppy music, but then here's another issue that this is really, really serious and demands your attention right now, but then let's switch to another thing that has nothing to do with that. It felt like there were a lot of issues that either shouldn't have been brought up at all because they couldn't be reflected in that space in the way, in the strength that they needed it to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I thought her performance was really powerful. I wish that it was something that was, I don't know, more talked about than it is.
Yeah. It's one of those
I don't know how to
interesting...
I feel like I'm just complaining, you know?
Yeah. And you don't want to do that because at least it's being shown.
Yes.
But it's like you feel there's certain ways that certain things should be executed in a way.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. But getting into this story, like Universal Music Publishing Group Chairman CEO Jody Gerson, who's a female CEO.
Hi.
She's talking about and the title of it is on her opinions on why the music industry has yet to have a Me Too moment. So speaking on to what
we're waiting.
Yeah. So
It'll happen.
So
within like the next. Definitely within this year, we're going to see some stories coming out from artists that are going to be highlighting some bullshit.
Yeah. And she is just kind of talking about just her, I guess, what she's been doing as a publisher during her 3 years running. And this is a near $1 billion music publishing company. So she's been in charge of it. And even just talking about her being a female in this industry and to charge of something this big, it's like a rarity.
Yeah.
And she's saying, trying to do this very good. And then she even talks about how being a music publisher is not even publicized at all. She's like, my goal was not to be a music publisher. And then she laughed in the interview and she was like, not everybody even knows the job actually exists.
Music publisher?
Yeah, people don't even know that job even exists as a job.
I guess not.
Yeah. So it's like, I think it's a very interesting article just to get it from specifically a female in the industry. And then a female that's that high up.
Yeah.
And in charge of probably one of a huge Universal Music is a big. It's like one of the three top music companies.
Yeah, it's Universal, Sony, and Warner Chappell.
Yeah, Warner Chappell. So being that big and being someone that's regarded at such a high esteem, it's just an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to look up this article, go on Billboard, and I guess you should search for Jody Gerson, and it should pop up right after that. But if you guys want to read something specifically from somebody in the industry and like a huge name in the industry, I think it's important that we research stuff like this.
Absolutely.
And then going into streaming, and I know since you've released music on Spotify and all the rest of the stuff, this will talk to you more. So it's talking about Spotify and how the free Spotify account can look very different too. So it's talking about
what does that look like? I haven't read it, so I actually have no idea.
So what they're talking about in this, it says that this in this article from the Entrepreneur, It says Spotify freeloaders. Your days may be numbered. According to Digital Music News, Spotify is beginning to cave to pressure from the music industry over its free streaming service. Streaming service. And it says, while Spotify will probably keep offering a free version of music streaming, excuse me, I can't talk today, non-paying users should expect big limitations starting next year. For example, non-paying users might only be able to access 1 or 2 songs from a popular album, and new albums could be delayed until after a launch period, or free users might only have a specific amount of time to stream music. Which is interesting when you think about it. And it says about 3, and then going to like some numbers, about 3/4 of Spotify's users are non-paying. Mm-hmm. So the push towards its higher tier $10 per month could be a major test for Spotify's perceived value. And when you think about it, that really would test it, because if it's 2/4, that's half of the population of Spotify users. So it's like half the people are free users and half the people are premium. So it's like they might lose half of their...
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know about Spotify until my freshman year of college. Mm-hmm. I was turned on to it, actually by my boyfriend at the time. Well, still my boyfriend. Anyway. He was like, I just discovered this new streaming service, because we were both using iTunes. Mm-hmm. So it was like, well, I mean, Apple Music I think was around already, but like I wasn't using Apple Music. I was just using iTunes. And he was like, it's so great, I love this. You should get Spotify. There's a student discount. You can get it for $5 a month.
Yeah, because that's what I have right now.
Yeah, and I was like, oh hell yeah, like I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. So I hopped on board, and I have not looked back. And I feel like I forgot that it is offered for free. That it's not a premium service for everyone. Yeah. And I've talked to so many people over the years about listening to music, and almost everybody I talk to has a Spotify account. Like, it's just become so popular. I think it's actually the biggest streaming service.
I think today. So at the moment.
Yeah, and it just seems crazy to me that, I don't know, I can't understand anybody using Spotify for free, because you don't really get anything already from it. Like, it's basically Pandora.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
So, it's not, I don't know. I don't think, my prediction for it is that they're not going to have a huge crash with people leaving, or, like, the people who were listening for free already probably weren't using it a ton anyway. Mm-hmm. So I can't see it. I mean, if anything, more people will convert to a premium subscription, especially if they're offering a student discount. So many of the people that stream music nowadays are younger. Yeah. And I mean, $10 a month if you're not a student is not the worst thing in the world if you want music, as opposed to buying an album.
Yeah, and when you really think about it, Netflix is only $10 a month. Yeah. Hulu's probably $14 at most a month. And
you get a free if you have Spotify. I think if you have the student discount, you get a free
and
Hulu.
And then actually Sprint has actually did something too with it, where you get Hulu for free as part of the plan. Yeah. So that's another business thing that's been going on with streaming sites and phone companies to try and bring more customers in.
But I think that's really smart. Yeah. I think, especially for Spotify, I don't know if I agree with the move to Hulu, because I'm not a huge Hulu user. Yeah. I'm a big Netflix person. Mm-hmm. But
I have both, so.
What do you watch on
Hulu? I usually, pretty much everything, right? Yeah. The thing with Netflix that I wish they implemented is that the shows that already are on, I wish that what Hulu allows is that if it's on Hulu, it comes in like the day of, or like an hour or two after the broadcast of the specific show. So you actually get it quicker than you would actually get it on Netflix. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why I like it over there. Okay. And one of the main reasons I actually got a Hulu account in the beginning was because of a show called Underground. It was talking about like slavery. It was like a good show about like the inner workings of slavery and like different aspects of slavery from each perspective, from the African American perspective and the white perspective, that I thought was a good show. Unfortunately, it was canceled.
What?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was canceled, but it's still on Hulu.
Okay. Is it like just the first season?
It was actually 2 seasons.
Okay.
So at least it was 2 seasons of it.
Did you get any closure?
No, not at all. It should have been. It was like cut in like, you know how shows get cut off in a certain way, where it's like you could have just kept it going until the end of the season. Like, you didn't have to do that to us.
Dude, actually, I had the same. Obviously, not as like powerful of a show.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was about people that like died and then came back to life.
Mm-hmm.
It was called The Returned, and it was on. It was on TV first, and then they put it
Was
on
that on
Netflix.
TNT?
It might have been.
Because I think I saw an episode of that.
It was like I was in it, like I was hooked, and they had a season of it, and then they ended on this like insane cliffhanger, and I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And they canceled it, and they put it up on Netflix anyway, even though there was no season 2, and there's just season 1, and it's just hanging out in a little bubble on Netflix, waiting to be watched by people who will inevitably get angry that it's no longer a show.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
It's one of those things that happen. But I just find it interesting because the fact that it's half of Spotify's users is just interesting. That's still half. And then when you think, and then when you think about just how Spotify pays artists,
it's so bad. They're
trying to get better. And then we can talk about going on to another streaming service. We can talk about Apple, and then they're trying to be more transparent about the royalty scheme for music. With their,
I heard about that.
Yeah, so that's another article we can look at on entrepreneur.com. It's talking about how Apple is proposing a radical change in the way artists are paid when their music is streamed online, and they're saying the suggestion could hurt rivals like Spotify and Google. Especially when you think of Google and YouTube. Yeah. Because you see, there's so many videos where it's just the music is posted on there and the artist is not getting credit. Right. At all. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting how these new laws are being implemented and how it's going to actually affect the artists and just the consumers of it. Because at the end of the day, there should be a marriage at the end of the day between the artists getting paid what they deserve and the consumers feeling like they have the access to receive the music as well. So it's always, I try to look at it as both the consumer and try and take the creativity hat off. Right. When I look at some of this stuff to try and give a more informed opinion on it. Yeah. Because I don't want to be like, oh, artists need to get paid and da-da-da-da-da. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm still a consumer too. Yeah. Because
I'm in the same boat that you are. Because I want to obviously enjoy the perks of streaming music. And I use Spotify personally. Like, I can't be the person that's like, Spotify's terrible, I don't get paid for my streams. And also consume it as much as I do.
Yeah. So it's like you have to be very nimble in your aspects of it. So you have to try and think for both sides of the coin.
It's definitely something that's tough to figure out, like what exactly to do in that situation. And it's been a talk that's been going on for such a long time with how to make sure everybody's equally compensated and it feeling like they're actually getting paid for their art. Because it's important. Your art isn't, they spend so much money, artists spend so much money in the studio and on videos and getting their work to be completed in a certain way. I mean, there's a budget for this. Yeah. And for it to be just consumed for free, it's not, that's not acceptable.
And that's why, speaking of, and then we come to another story about a streaming service. Since, I don't know if you know Tidal. Yeah. Jay-Z's own co-owner to Tidal now. They have this whole Sprint deal. Like, and since I have Sprint, I got it for 6 months free. Okay. So,
what are your thoughts? Do you like Tidal?
The thing is, what I really respect about Tidal, and the whole implementation of it is that, from looking at, the percentages of what artists get paid for their creations, it's much higher than Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that. Okay. So I have, and the fact that it was created specifically by an artist himself makes it even more credible to me to support.
Right, it's more personal.
It's more personal, and I feel like the content that's posted on Tidal is more geared. While it's geared to consumers, definitely. It's also geared to people that are part of the industry too. There's a lot of informational videos on it. It gives you like in-depth interviews with the actual artists on it.
I heard about that. That's if you get the premium.
Yes. And I feel like the quality of the stream, because they have like this high quality
like
aspect,
HD
that like HD thing. That's part of the premium thing too as well. So I feel like it. The only thing that I wish it had the amount of music that like a Spotify would have. That's the only. Okay. That's probably the only issue I have, and that's probably why it's not as popular as Spotify, is because of the library.
Right.
But I feel like this is like the start. And like we should try and frame stuff around this aspect of streaming services. Cause
I think the problem that you run into with that in particular is that when you have something that comes out that is, let's say Spotify cost, let's say for everybody it was $5,
mm-hmm.
and it comes out and artists get paid very small amount, but let's just say like it's $5 a month. Everybody's hopping on this bandwagon because it's only $5 a month,
mm-hmm.
and people would rather pay for a streaming service, especially if it's cheap and they're guaranteed the music, than pirate music, because you have to go out of your way to pirate music.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go out of your way to like go online and find music and torrent it. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
if it's easy to access, I'm more willing to pay for something if it doesn't take an extra second of my time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem comes in when you have a service that's charging a certain amount and then another service comes in and says, hey, we have a higher quality music, which oftentimes people don't really care about too much.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And we're more expensive. We're, let's say, like for Tidal, when they first came out, they were like, we're $10. I think originally it was like $15 a month, and then they changed it.
Yeah, I think it was around there.
Yeah.
It was definitely around there.
People saw that and thought it was like ridiculous. Because here they have this service that they're paying much cheaper for. They get more music, and they don't care about the audio quality. 99% of people aren't audiophiles that are like, I need this in 4K.
Yeah.
Like, people don't care. And I think it's a good approach to not necessarily maybe the right way to attract people.
Yeah.
Like if Tidal had something about it when it first came out that attracted people that was more than what Spotify has. Like, I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you the answer, because like otherwise I'd have my own streaming company.
Yeah.
But they have to find a way.
Because I feel like because when it comes to the videos, I feel like they beat Spotify. They beat out the water.
But then what about YouTube? Like, you can just stream those videos on YouTube for free, can't you? I mean, some videos, I guess, were Tidal exclusive, right?
Most of them are Tidal exclusive, so you would have to get it off of Tidal too.
But then that's when you like, if it costs more to pay for Tidal, I feel like that's when people start to pirate music videos or torrent them. It's like, well, I don't want to pay $5 extra for this service.
Mm-hmm. And then I think it goes into another aspect of the change in music industry is that when you really think about it, we used to pay $10, $12, $13, sometimes $17 for an album.
Yeah.
And now it's like, that's like absurd that you pay for it. Like, because now everything's about the $1.99, or I guess on iTunes now it's $1.29 or something like that for a song.
I feel like iTunes ruined that when they started releasing digitally.
When it was like now it's single based, so everything's single based. It's not about the whole project. People just pick and choose what singles they like off an album, just buy it like that, and it kind of took away the importance of what an album actually is and what the creativity and the story of what an artist is trying to portray.
Yeah.
Like, and then you have artists like, say, Beyonce and like Prince and like those caliber artists. Like, they'll have like videos, like the Prince movie. The movies for Prince's albums were literally what Beyonce is doing now.
Yeah,
is that he would perform. It would be a movie. It would have a storyline. It would have all that other stuff, but it coincides with the album.
mm-hmm.
And then it's the same thing with Beyonce, the whole formation aspect of it.
Right.
And then even before that, when she released her self-titled album, that was the first time she actually did the whole thing with the videos connecting to each other.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that created a whole new trend too.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like, if you don't have a video, you're screwed too.
Yeah. But then if you don't have a way of viewing that video that isn't, like, you can only view that video if you pay for it. People never had to pay for videos. I think that's another thing.
Yeah,
if you could always access videos for free on YouTube, why would you want to pay money to watch a video on another service?
Yeah.
I think that's a problem that comes in with including videos in it, because it makes sense from an artist standpoint of like, well, now my true fans will watch, but that's the thing, is that only your true fans are going to go in and spend the money to watch the video and buy the album.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a cent more. People are stingy.
Yeah.
And you like, I don't know, it's like if you give like a little kid like a candy bar and it's like chocolate and it's their favorite flavor, and they go, oh my god, I love chocolate, and then you go, well, here's a lollipop instead. Like, what do you think? And the kid's like, I liked the chocolate.
Exactly.
So, it's tough.
It's tough. I just feel like that's a foundation you should have, and then like, because even with now what they're doing, I feel like they're working on it to make it a little bit more marketable. And I feel like if they, when they first came out, maybe the price was lower. I feel like the perception in people's minds would be a lot different, and they would give it a little bit more of a chance than now, because now they're doing a whole bunch of stuff to try and give it a little bit more mainstream appeal by going with Sprint and then stuff like that, and then having that whole 6-month period with Sprint users and all that other stuff.
Yeah, that's smart, because if you like the service, then 6 months after you're going to want to continue that service.
You'll continue it. It's just very interesting when you think about the whole business aspect of it for both sides, because in the end of the day, it's still business. Again, it's a music business, and unfortunately, creatives come at the end of making money.
Yeah.
So it's always an interesting balance between both of those.
I think you can have music in a space that's lucrative and also creative for you, but it might not necessarily be mainstream. I think it's like the fusion of those two things. That's the hard part. That's why making it is so tough, because you have to be able to release music that people like, obviously, but then also
be true to yourself.
Yeah, you have to be true to who you are as an artist and make money. And I don't know, you hear so many stories of artists who get signed to labels who get a contract for like a single deal, and if it flops and people don't listen to the single, you're indebted to the label for a ridiculous amount of money. And like, you can't, they give you the not a loan, but like they basically pay for your studio time, and then you have to come back to them and recoup the costs. And it's a scary situation for somebody like me who wants to make it in the industry in that capacity. And I'm thinking to myself, if I ever got the opportunity to get a record deal of any sort, like between, streaming and like hitting that lucky spot on Spotify where you're featured in a playlist, or Apple Music picks you up and you get featured as an Apple Music artist. They have the Artist of the Month. If you don't get lucky and you don't get a response like that from people, you have so much money that you owe on top of barely getting paid from the streaming services anyway. So it's just scary. It's a really kind of frightening industry to delve into. It's worth it, at least for somebody like me who loves it more than anything. Like, I'm not coming at it from a money perspective. I'm not trying to be the richest person in the world. I just want to make music. But if I want it to be a lucrative career for myself, and I want to have a sustainable life and do what I love, like, there are risks that have to be taken. And streaming services not providing a lot to profit from make it more risky.
Yeah, it makes it even worse now.
Yeah.
And that's why, even though what I said, I wished SZA won the award for which Alessia Carr won for new artist.
Yeah.
I appreciate what she said.
Me too.
I appreciate the fact that she again used the stage where she's at for something that's important.
Yeah.
She talked about we need to give respect to unknown artists just as much as we give to the mainstream. So I've respected her for that.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, there's just so much talent out there.
Yeah.
Outside of the mainstream that,
Oh, yeah.
and then when you even say, and it's hard to even say this, but to be honest, there's a lot people that are probably more talented than the people that are in the mainstream
Mm-hmm.
that should actually be mainstream that aren't.
But they're not marketable.
It's not marketable because either they're maybe part of the LGBT, maybe their skin tone is just too dark to be appealing to most people. Maybe their way of dressing is a little bit too eccentric for mainstream media. Maybe their lyrics are too political or too.
Because you could be political but not too political.
Yeah.
Like, there's a weird fine line that is drawn.
Maybe it's too poppy, maybe it's too this, or maybe it's not easy for me to define you in one specific area of the music industry. So there's a lot of roadblocks in the industry that I feel like kind of, in a way, ruin creativity.
Yeah.
Even though they're supposed to highlight creativity, which is kind of hypocritical when you think about it.
Yeah.
But then again, you have to think again, it's the music business. So this business.
Right. It all comes back to it being a business.
Yeah. So that's, and then for people like us that just love it, I could care less about money, to be honest. But I just would like to be paid for.
You want to sustain yourself.
You want to be able to be sustained and be know that what you're doing is appreciated.
Yeah.
And one way to know that your stuff's being appreciated is for you to get paid for the work you've done. Like if you're in like a corporate job and you're doing like an accounting job, you want to get paid for doing somebody's accounting work.
You could love accounting all you want, but like you still need to.
I still need money to support my family, and if you want to start a family, you want to support your wife, your kids, or your husband, your kids, or whatever life you want to live. You want to have roof over your head. You want to have running water.
Yeah.
Like you just want to have stuff to live off of.
I've always found people who are like, I've met so many like artists who are like, oh, like it's nice that you like want to make it in the industry and like you want to be famous and stuff. Like I just do music because I love it, and I'm like, well, then you don't want to do it for a living. Like if you do music and you love it and it's something that you really really like, and you don't care at all about any kind of recognition or any kind of monetary compensation for that music, it's essentially a hobby. Like this isn't a career that you're trying to have. Like you can love watching the stock market and following trends, but like, that doesn't necessarily make you an investor. Yeah. You know?
Like I love musicals, but like at this moment in time I don't think I want to actually try out for musicals.
Right,
like
exactly.
I don't like at this moment I don't feel like I'm ready particularly to be part of it, but when there's a musical that I'm interested in, I'm going to go to Broadway and go see it. Like
exactly.
It's more of like something like it's a thrill and a hobby of me going to see shows.
Exactly.
Not me trying to specifically study for a role or study for that performance and study the ins and out of it to try and audition for it.
Exactly.
So it's not a career for me.
Yes, I hear a lot of that from people who are like who talk down to artists who want to make a career out of their music. Because they're like, well, like you should do it because you love it. It's like, yeah, you should do it because you love it, and you should also do it if you're trying to do it for a living and because you love it and you want to make a living. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah. And then it's just so hard because it feels like the arts is never represented in the way it should be.
No way,
the arts programs being cut for more money going to like athletics and stuff like that And I understand even with that, and I understand the issues with the athletes not getting paid the money that the money's going to the coaches and the schools and not going to the people that are participating in it. Like the whole NCAA, like the whole NCAA with basketball and football and stuff like that. You have these kids out here just playing, and these coaches are getting like all this money.
Right. And
these kids are like fainting, dying,
going through. That's like an entirely different thing. That issue with athletes being worked, especially football players, being worked to a degree where they literally have head trauma.
Yeah.
They have head injuries that don't shouldn't allow them to continue playing, and then they have a lot of issues in their personal lives because of it, and they're not properly cared for because it's like, who cares? It's sports. Like there's a lot of things that are kind of swept under the rug because of the business aspect of it mattering more than the people involved. But like at the end of the day, there's people involved. These are human beings. You can't forget that. Yeah,
so you can kind of see some parallels with that, even though it seems like the coming from a creative person, even going through high school, like through schooling, you see like if you're a musician, you're looked at like, oh, they're just like weird, interesting kid. They'll make fun of you for everything you do, like just the way you dress, just anything that's normal to like sports standards or anything like that. Yeah. But you'll see, because like even my high school, like there was sport, like it's like a hierarchy. Like if you're on the sports team or anything, like even if you don't win, like even if you guys never have won anything, you're still looked at. You're still automatically looked at as being like upper class. Like, if you think of it, like, think of it like the upper echelon of students is the sports player.
Yeah.
And then the creative people who literally win awards constantly, they're just treated like, oh, they're just geeks. They're just being geeks, just weirdos that just like sing a lot and all this other stuff.
Or if you're passionate about something musically, and even if you're not like a band geek, people approach it from like, oh, like they're so self-centered, like they think they're the best.
Yeah.
It's like, I've never seen you go out and do something that you care about, you're passionate about.
Yeah.
You haven't put your entire heart and soul into something. Like, why would I have so many like tarnished memories of high school.
I do too.
People making fun of me.
Yeah.
So I get that.
It's interesting. So, and I don't feel like people understand how much work goes into it either.
No, and they don't.
Like they just don't get it. Like they just don't understand that. Like even just to do the school musicals. It's months.
They overwork those kids like
it's
crazy.
Like I did the musical. It was months and months of preparation, and then it's literally like and it's, to be honest, it's not like a Broadway show or anything where like you're doing it for like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. It's literally like 3 to 5 days of performing this thing that you've been working on for probably 3 months, three months before you even do the whole musical for 5 days. So you're literally going in there every day for 3 months while you're going to school.
Yeah.
Practicing lines, figuring out what numbers are, remembering choreography. Then you still have to remember schooling.
Right.
And stuff like that. And then you think about, for the sports people, you think about, you have to remember plays. You have to remember all this other stuff. Conditioning. You have to stay in shape. You have to eat right. You have to make sure that you're eating continuously. You have to stay energized.
Right.
You have school at the same time. So it's like, I don't think people understand what goes into these careers, because what's considered, these are, and again, sports and music are careers where it's very, the success rate is very lopsided.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I feel like since it's so lopsided, people just give it like the swish and like,
well, because it's entertainment-based, right?
Yes,
any career that's entertainment-based isn't taken as seriously, but if you think about it, everything that we do is based around entertainment. Everything. Even like somebody who works as an accountant, is making money so that they can go home and spend that money to make themselves feel happy, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel happy? You go to a baseball game, or you go see a concert, or you buy that new single, or you even go to the mall and buy a new outfit. It's fashion. It's all entertainment.
Yeah.
It's all based around that, and people don't take it seriously, and it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's very stupid. Because we're not talking about jobs, like, when we talk about this, we're not talking about jobs like doctors and, like, teachers and stuff like that. And even when you think about that, doctors and teachers aren't respected either.
No, they're not. But I'm not saying everything, I should clarify, I don't mean that everything's based around entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, a doctor isn't going to fix your heart so you can go home and listen to the new Kesha song.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean it from that standpoint. But I mean that a lot of the expenses that people end up having after, food and obviously necessary things are to get their mind off of the fact that, like,
life is interesting.
Life is slowly but surely ticking by, and, like, the days are limited, and, like, you want to keep yourself happy. And the only way to do that is through all of the different mediums that we have. And, like, to see schools not getting funded and certain programs being taken out because certain things are placed over certain, like, I understand a doctor's profession being more important than that of a singer because, like, one person is literally saving the life physically of another person, whereas someone's entertaining somebody else. But I think that,
but in a way, you can say that we're saving people's lives
exactly,
too. So, just
from like a
emotional
theoretical,
standpoint.
like an emotional standpoint. But I think they both have
value,
an incredible amount of value, and to say that one is more important than the other, in some ways one can be, and in other ways it can't. Like, it doesn't make sense to cut funding for certain things, especially when there are certain expenditures that are so ridiculous that are not needed. I remember my school had smart boards in every room, where, like, we have a chalkboard, we have a whiteboard that you can write on. Why do we need a smart projector? Why can't we use the old janky ones? No one complained. Yeah.
Because my mom's a teacher. She talks about the whole... And now education has become a business. Yeah. It's not about education anymore.
No, it's not.
Especially with these standardized tests. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Like, with us, we weren't used to it when it was implemented and everything.
No.
So, like, there was, like, a big, like, divide. I remember even with us taking it. It was like, why are we taking all these standardized tests? We never had to take this when we were in elementary school. Yeah. But, like, these little kids literally from, like, probably, I think, second or third grade. I think when my mom was still was teaching second grade, they were doing standardized tests.
My brother is 14. He's in middle school right now, and he had to take the PARC. Do you know what that is?
And, like, she's talked about it, but I don't know specifically what it is.
It's one of the standardized tests, like NJS kind of thing. Yeah, and he had to take that recently, and he was saying that some of those questions were, like, at a level that they were not learning. He was coming home with question and answer packets to practice for the upcoming standardized tests, and it was insane. Like, some of these things are things that not only aren't they being taught, but aren't ever going to be applied in any capacity. Like, why not teach kids valuable life skills? Why are we giving them these standardized tests that they're, like, going to fail?
And speaking of that, I look back at school and I'm like, some of the math things, like, why weren't we taught taxes?
Right?
Like, I literally just got, like, my tax return thing from the school. Like, I literally just got it, like, a week or so ago. And I'm just like, how am I going to... I had to ask my parents to do this. Like, I should know, like, I'm going to be alone soon. And have to figure out taxes and figure out utilities and stuff like that. Like, I need to know how to fill out taxes in a certain way. And I feel like we're teaching kids to pass a test and not teaching kids to be an all-around student, in a way.
Yeah,
because then when you come to college, all changes. Because now, and when people are trying to hire you, it's about you being all around instead of just you being one certain thing. Yeah. So I feel like we're stumping the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I agree with that. I think that's something that gets brought up all the time, that, like, people always talk about how, like, hey, we're not learning anything that's actually useful in school, in primary school. And everybody talks about it, but again, nothing gets done. People like to have the conversation about how our education system is kind of lacking in a lot of areas, but nothing gets done about it. We just give them more standardized tests. I'm a bad test taker. I can't take a test to save my life.
I suck at tests.
I get anxious. I get like an anxiety attack when I take a test. Don't know why. I have my whole life, ever since I was a little kid. When you put a test in front of me, even if I've studied for days and days and weeks,
just continue.
Yeah, I always mess up. Like it takes me forever.
I used to do that. Always used to happen to me as well. Just like, I don't know, and I feel like one thing, I feel like it comes to the people being a little bit more logical, and it comes to people being a little bit more like the different sides of your brain.
Yep.
Going into how you take tests.
Yeah.
Like, because, so like when it comes to tests, like, I don't know, like certain, like if it's the left side of your brain, the right side of your brain, whatever brain is the part
right
side.
Right brain is creative, left brain's
so like if you if you're more like logic centered, taking tests is like a little bit like a breeze to you. Like it's more logically, it makes sense to you. But for me, somebody that's a little bit more creative brained, I found that like if it was like a quiz just regularly throughout the class, like I was fine with that. But when it came to like a huge test or something like that, like the SATs, like I completely like was like it was horrible.
Oh God!
Like it was like, and then like some of my friends are like a little bit more logic brained and like better test takers than I am.
Yeah.
So like they will have these scores and I'll be like,
what did I do?
Yeah, and then it's like when you come to this test, it's not generally that the people that are taking the test better are smarter than the people that aren't taking the test better, and I feel like
that neglect scores have nothing to do with your level of intelligence
at all. Like, because I know there's like one of my best friends, like she's the smartest person I know, but she sucks at tests. Like,
yeah, I have the same problem. I have a weird test taking method where if I can't understand a question, I'll try to skip it, and then I will be looming over that last question. I reread a question 5 times. I
do that all the time. Even here. Like I was just in the business class. I forget what business class. I think it was marketing class. Like I literally, like there was literally 2 questions that I just skipped over because like I need to finish most of the stuff and to come back to the question. Yeah. I literally leaned over the question for at least 2 minutes each.
Yeah.
At least 2 minutes each. And like I was just waiting, and like I was one of the last people in the class.
Yeah, I'm always
like one of the last people in the class, and everybody else is gone. And then like I get the answers right after the test is going, and I'm like, I knew this answer.
Yeah.
Like I literally knew this answer. Like I've been studying, I've been paying attention. I wrote it down to make sure I remember what this answer is. Yeah. And it's just like when it comes to the test, it's like, okay, you forget everything. Okay, that makes sense.
Sometimes it isn't even a matter of forgetting for me. It's that I will read a question over so many times that I second guess myself, and then
that's never part 2.
I'll put the right answer,
and then erase it, and then put a different answer.
Yeah, or I'll put the right answer, but I won't finish the test because I've spent too much time second guessing it, and then we'll go over the test, and it turns out I got all my answers correct, but it just took me like an hour and 20 minutes, whereas everybody else took 20 minutes because I spent the whole time like freaking out in my own head. I've just never been a good test taker. I'm not great in like, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like I'm not horrible in pressure situations, but for some reason, something about tests has just always messed me up.
Yeah. And then and when you think about that, the opposite of it. So now, like getting on stage, like. I'm necessarily like, it doesn't bother you at all, right?
Never. I've never, ever, ever in my life gone on stage in a moment where it was like, I've had so many shows that I've played where like I needed to get on stage last minute, or there was a technical issue, or like something was going wrong behind the scenes that I didn't let on because like it's my job to be in front of this audience and I'm supposed to be singing and like this is what I'm going to do. But for those high-pressure situations, I know exactly how to handle myself. I've never had any issue. But with test-taking...
Yes, interesting.
And, like, that determines your level of intelligence or how well you can handle certain situations. It's crazy to me. That's not, and maybe it's just because we don't have a better way of judging, the intelligence bracket. But this is definitely not right. Yeah,
it's definitely not right. Because even like me, like one of the first things I ever did as a young kid, I danced first. Before, like I always was singing, but I danced first. So I would just get up on stage. Like I literally won like a competition in New York for ice cream for like a whole year.
Wow!
Just getting
a year of ice cream.
Yeah, a year of Turkey Hill ice cream. Yeah, like when I forget what year, I forget how old I was, but I just literally just walked up on stage and started dancing. Then won, like just not even worried about anything else in the world, just up there dancing.
Where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Some people really, really thrive in situations where like maybe some people are great at test taking, and that's something that they thrive in. Mm-hmm. People are great in academic situations, and other people thrive in, like, I know I've been in situations with my friends where I'll go on stage in front of like a large crowd and I'll perform, and it's like I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm home, and I'll come off stage and my friends are like, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
And like it's the friends that are like really great test takers and are really great with
numbers,
school. They're scholars, and that's their thing, and they're so smart with numbers, but they could never get on stage and do the things that we were able to do.
Yeah.
And it's not, people always make the joke that like, oh my god, I don't know how you do it, like I'm faint. But like in actuality, if you were to take somebody who is more left-brained and put them in a position that we've been in,
they probably would faint.
Yeah, right. They wouldn't be able to get on stage and dance and win a year of ice cream.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's just not saying that just because you're right-brained it's easy for you to get up there. Like even like somebody that's like known as one of the vocalists of all time, Mariah Carey. Like she has stage fright. She still has stage fright.
Yeah.
But she just knows how to go past that and perform.
Exactly.
Like even I have stage fright. Like even starting to start singing, because it's not something that I've done as long as I've done dancing.
Right.
It's still like something I had to turn off, like switch off when I get up there.
Right.
But it's more natural to me to actually do it.
Exactly.
So it's easier for me to switch that off.
Yeah, so. I think people who are more left-brained, because it's popular to be left-brained. Mm-hmm. It's good to be left-brained. Mm-hmm. It's good to be smart, and it's good to be great academically. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like the popular thing. And if you're not automatically somebody whose intelligence is reflected on their test scores, which it isn't anyway, but if you're the type of person that thinks that way, you look at people who are creative and you think that they're not capable of bringing something to the table. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything to offer. But it's just that people are different, Mm-hmm. You can't say that one person is better than the other person because this person's great at math and this person's great at music. Mm-hmm. Like you can't have both people living in the same sphere. You need different people to have different skill sets. Yeah. It would be insane to think that like everybody needs to be good at math, everybody needs to be good at science, whatever. Yeah. You need people that are filling different areas
and aspects of life.
Yeah.
And I feel like we just need to, again, with social media and us feeling like, even with the social issues of us wanting to be distracted, I feel like we need to figure out empathy. We have to try to empathize with people.
Yeah.
And try to see things from different perspectives as much as possible. Because stuff will continue to be exactly how it is.
Yeah.
If we don't figure out a way to try and think from somebody else's shoes.
Exactly.
Or think from somebody's standpoint. Like, while I'm not a woman, I don't necessarily, when I think of my mother, I don't want my mother to go through that.
Yeah.
So I think of it that way.
Exactly.
And while I'm not a woman, I can still get sexually harassed.
Absolutely.
And, like, while you might not be part of the LGBT, I am. Mm-hmm. So I understand there's certain intersectionalities that I go through, and some of the things that a woman might go through, like when it comes to sexual harassment, I might feel that way because I'll be sexually harassed by,
no matter who you are. Yeah.
So you have to try and figure out. It is not, and I feel like people think it's too taxing to do that. And I feel like people think, oh, it's too much work, and then I always think that there's always an issue with things. But when you think about it, there's always been an issue with things, and people have tried to make it better.
think that's the whole point, though, right?
Yeah.
People always talk about how it's hard to be empathetic, and it is hard. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not supposed to be easy. The easy thing to do is to act primitively and to act entirely out of, I mean, like, I don't know if you've ever taken psychology, but like Sigmund Freud and the id and the ego and superego and whatever. It's the easiest thing in the world to act instinctively and to care strictly for yourself and to not ever implement any kind of empathy or any kind of understanding toward other people, to act entirely in your own hedonistic desires. And that's easy. And you can do that all you want, but you suck. You're a bad person, Like, that's just something that we've deemed as society to be a negative trait. And, like, it's harder to care for other people, especially putting yourself in a situation where you might not necessarily like another person, but you have to empathize with them.
Or agree with their standpoint as well.
And I think something that we've been even dealing with in our country for the longest time is this weird divisive thing where one side doesn't agree with the other, and while I understand that both sides can't always come to an agreement and, like, compromise, you can't look at things so black and white. It can't be that this side's evil and this side's good and these people are bad and these people are good. It's like, that's not how the world works. Everything is such a gray area. Everything needs to be looked at from both perspectives. People think that they see...
People need to live in the gray.
Yeah,
we need to start living in the gray and not just black or white. Yeah. And I feel like even starting to vote, like, at first, like, I was a strong, like, oh, I'm a Democrat and stuff like that. But even though I don't necessarily agree with a lot of, all of the conservative stuff, like, some things I understand, but I try to understand the standpoint.
Right.
So in ways, I'm always like, maybe I would classify myself as more independent than anything,
like a centrist,
something different. And like, then we don't even talk about even coming to political parties. We don't talk about the stuff in the middle, between the stuff.
There's so many people that are in the middle. That
like for the more conservative people, like the libertarians.
Yes.
I forget the other words for them. But
there's like centrist. There's libertarians. There's like more like right-leaning,
left-leaning people. Like, so it's like it's a lot of one side. It's a lot of the good and evil, like the good and evil aspect. And I feel like, again, we've been taught that throughout history and even childhood. We were taught in fairy tales, good and evil.
Yeah,
we're taught in life, oh, this person did this to somebody, so they're evil, and the person that happened to was a good person, and he's trying to figure out how to be a better person throughout the whole thing. So I feel like it's a lot of duality, but there's a lot more intersectionality. And I said that word a lot today, guys.
But you're right.
But there's a lot of intersectionality and a lot of overlap between a lot of different situations. So I feel like it's just an interesting world, and like, I feel like even with the man that's in the White House, he will not be called president by me. I feel like it's illuminated a lot of stuff that we've tried to hide. Like, even the fact that like the whole thing in Charlottesville, we saw people our age.
Yeah.
Our age. Down there, saying the stuff that was coming out of people's mouths and saying the kind of stuff, the hatred that's still there.
It's crazy.
We thought it was, like, to be honest, I thought it was.
I thought that was gone.
I thought it was older people.
Yeah, I did too. Actually, I had a really weird scenario the other day. I'm Jewish, and there was somebody who I was talking to very casually who had mentioned that her dad was like anti-Semitic, and I was like, people are still like, whoa, okay, like, calm down. And she was like, the way that she was talking about it was very much like she had been raised in this environment, and she was asking me questions about it that were super, super weird. Like, she was like, are Jews like evil? And I was like, what? She's like, are you evil people? And I was like, no.
Like,
I think I'm relatively nice.
Yeah.
But it was strange. And I was like, where'd you get that from? And she's like, my dad is like, he doesn't like Jewish people. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And when it's a little bit weird for us because we didn't have to, it wasn't as blatant.
Yeah.
As it was back then.
No, but it's more.
But it's coerced. It's coerced, and it's a lot of it's more of tone and language.
Yeah.
And like if you're not like if your vocabulary is a little bit lighter than most, we won't be able to actually catch it.
Right.
And then again, people will hear stuff in two different ways. Like somebody could say something around us, like we'll be in the same group and somebody can say something and it'll be offensive to me because it negatively affects people that look like me.
Right.
But to you probably won't actually hear it like that unless it doesn't affect you, or you never or you don't experience, or you don't have friends that experience that, and you have a dialogue together about certain aspects of that.
That's what I appreciate about what you're saying right now is the entire aspect of having a dialogue. It's one thing to say something that can make somebody go on the offense. If somebody says something, like maybe someone tells a joke that I find funny, but you might not necessarily find funny because it offends you. It's so important to me that you said to have a dialogue about that and for you to address that with people in the group and like say, hey, like this, this isn't cool because of these reasons, whatever. This is how I feel about it, as opposed to expecting everybody to know.
And even I fall short sometimes because sometimes it's just blatant.
Yes.
Where it's like I don't know how you could even just
how could you miss that?
How could you figure this out? And it's just like, okay, like I just have to be outspoken about it.
Exactly.
But then there's sometimes where it's like there's a little bit again more intersectionality of it, a more like gray area of it, where it's like you could see from two different sides, and then like there's even more sides to it than you think there is to a situation.
Exactly.
It's like you have to talk about it, and I feel like we don't talk enough.
We talk at each other.
We don't listen. And like even in this interview, like I'm trying to not talk as much and just listen to what you have to say. Like I'm giving you questions, trying to listen to you, not just give you like a whole bunch of responses for myself to make it like seem more interesting because I'm talking. Like I feel like you have to do a better job of that.
No, we do. It's something that I've noticed a lot of, just people screaming their opinions at each other, and it doesn't get anything resolved because you're not listening to what the other person has to say. Even if like you don't come to an agreement at the end of it, genuinely listening to what somebody else has to say, there's like a level of respect that's gained, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you were talking to somebody who had the complete opposite opinions as you did, if they sat down with you and they spoke to you and they acknowledged what you had to say and you acknowledged what they had to say, and it was, I mean, I can understand it getting heated at some points when there are like really, really crazy disagreements, but to treat the other person with respect and to try to understand at least where they're coming from with what they're saying can be so much more life-changing than just one person on Facebook being like, I hate this thing that's happening, and then another person commenting and being like, well, you suck and I'm unfriending you. It's like, how does anything get accomplished there? You're just creating an echo chamber.
Yes, it's interesting. And now it's being paraded around the world, so everything that you say is literally broadcast around everywhere. So it's not like you can just say stuff in your house anymore.
No.
And because now all your thoughts, feelings, just pictures of yourself and your family are broadcasted around the world. Somebody can like it. Like, and even like some of the, like even some photos like I post on the internet and on Instagram and stuff like that, and it's getting liked by people in like the Netherlands and like England and stuff like that. I'm like, and then people are following your account, and you're like, but I don't, like, you're not even part of my vicinity of knowledge or anything. Like, I don't even know, unfortunately, about your culture enough to even conversate to you, like, have a conversation with you.
Right.
So it's like you're following me and you like what I'm doing, but it's like there's still like a disconnect between like the communication. So it's like we're broad and it's like a whole globalization thing, but we're really not.
But we don't know each other.
But we don't know each other, and we're not global when we think about language. Even in America, we don't.
Yeah,
In all the even all the other countries, like there was a YouTuber that I watched. He lived in Paris, France, for like a few months.
Yeah.
And he just made a video about how like being American in these places is like it's very weird because like all of their stuff they're very indulged in American culture.
Yes.
Whereas like their culture is like it's hard to even find their culture anymore. Because they're so like indoctrinated with American TV, American culture, and all that other stuff. But the different aspects of it is that they know their actual language of their country, but they also know English and they also know other languages.
Yeah.
But with us, it's very centralized. It's just we know
only
English.
know us and we don't care about anybody else.
We just know English.
Yes.
And he was talking about how we don't try to like if somebody likes. Even when you go to restaurants or you go to like shopping malls and like if you're a retail person, like if somebody comes up to you and they speak a whole different language from you, it's like, oh my God, how do you not speak English?
Right.
It's like an issue for us. It's not even like, oh, they came here from a different country, like pretty much everybody that was ever here.
Yeah, everybody
immigrating, like even though we act like we lived here all our lives, which we have, but when you look at the history, this is not our country. Like,
exactly.
To be honest,
everybody's
like
from everywhere.
Everybody's from everywhere. Like we're all intermixed at the end of the day because of certain interesting things that happened in our past. So, like, we could have the similar ancestries.
Yes.
Like even though I'm black and you're Jewish, like we could still probably have certain parts of our ancestries. Like you could have African American in your bloodline, and I could have some European or Jewish in my bloodline, and not even know it. And look, because we all look similar in ways. It's just the skin tone.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Exactly.
Just interesting.
It is really interesting. I'm so fascinated with like ancestry and stuff because like I come from a like all Russian family.
Mm-hmm.
And as far back as I know, my whole family is just like Russian Jewish people. Mm-hmm. And I meet people who are like mixed with all these different cultures, and it's so fascinating to me because I grew up on this weird mix of Russian culture and American culture. My parents came to the States, and I was a first generation American born in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And growing up, my folks only spoke Russian to me, so my first language and my first understanding of how the world worked was through Russian culture. I ate Russian food, I spoke the Russian language, I consumed Russian media in a sense. I know my grandparents loved watching Russian television. Mm-hmm. They still do. And now I'm obviously Americanized and like I was born here, so when I went to school, I had to learn how to speak English, and I was delving into American culture, and while there are still certain things at home that are Russian, that remain Russian, like obviously my grandparents are, they have these really thick Russian accents, and my parents still speak it fluently, and I speak it relatively fluently, and I understand how to read and write, and I eat Russian foods and whatever. It's this weird thing where I'm like mixed in between these two cultures, and I wish so badly that there was more of that. Like I wish people were more connected.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with people like you that actually had that experience, because that's interesting to me, because I feel like if we did that more, we'd be able to respect people.
Yeah, absolutely.
More if we had that experience from birth, and you look at kids don't know anything.
No, they don't.
they're blank slates. Yeah. They're blank slates. Like there was literally like a story on the news with like a white kid and a white girl and a black girl, and then we're like, oh, we're twins.
Oh.
They literally they were saying that we're twins. I don't care what anybody says, we're twins.
I love that so much.
And then it's just like when they get older, we don't know if that's still going to be the mindset of these kids, and it's sad. Like when you think of kids, you see like that, you're like, oh, there's hope for the world, and then it's like 5 years later, it's like it's like their whole psyche is changed because they have whole different experiences, and then the people around them might not be equipped enough or try enough to let them know that this certain perspective is out there, and that you need to try and not necessarily agree with it, but you need to have a certain amount of respect for that person.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I'm always like, should I have kids? Because it's like,
do I want to do this?
Do I want to do this? Do I want to raise this kid and have like some amount of sense to understand that?
Yeah, it's
one, life is hard, and
like, what if you mess up? What if you have a really jerk kid?
Yeah,
what are you gonna do? Yeah. That's on you. Yeah. That sucks.
It's always like, and it's like, how much do you want to make sure that they know that they can be independent without being too independent, where they act like they can just talk to you however you want? And it's like, then you go into discipline aspects. And like, people have so many different aspects of what discipline is. Yes. Like, some people beat their kids, some people don't beat their kids. And then if now that's broadcast on social media. Now people have issues with that. Right. And then it goes into, again, that's culturally what people have done for centuries and years and years and years. So you can't really tell somebody that their discipline practices are wrong.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, I have friends that are like, older than me that are like, my mom used to beat the shit out of me, and I'm like, oh my god, and they're like, but I rock now, and I'm like, well, I guess you are fine, and I'm like, well, does it work then? Because my parents didn't beat me, my parents didn't even spank me, they were just like, don't do that, and like, I was a well-behaved kid, I guess just naturally, like, I never really acted out, so they didn't really have much to do, but like, I can't imagine having a kid that's, like, crazy and wired. And I'm like, what do I do with it?
Yeah, because, like, it was, like, a mix, I had to say. Like, when I was younger, it was more, I got spanked, I got stuff like that. But that's more predominantly, that's not predominantly, but it's culturally normal for African Americans to spank their kids.
Right, and I've seen that with different cultures, too.
And, like, I'm not sure, since I'm not Hispanic, I don't know if it's the same way with Hispanic culture.
I've heard that. I've had a few friends that have told me that their moms, specifically Hispanic moms, are very, like, don't mess with me. If you speak in a way that's, like, demeaning to me, you'll get the stick.
Yeah. So, like, it was, like, a mix, because I think as I got older, even though, because when I look back, I was a wild child, but it was, like, there was a lot of reasons why I was that way.
Right.
So, that's the reason why. And then, like, I'm kind of like somebody that I had to learn from experience more than you telling me something. Yes, like I was one of those kids that like to question everything and like to be like, oh, this is and I don't understand because you said this and then you said that to him and then that doesn't make sense.
Did you get the because I say so?
Yeah. The whole parent thing, it doesn't really help. So that, and for somebody like kids like us that question everything, it's not good for us. So I would just get spanked. But as I got older, like, it was like, oh, just don't do this. Like, it was just like punishments. It was just like verbal punishments. Like, more so probably what you got. It was like more verbal. Yeah. More verbal stuff than anything. Verbal. Yeah, for sure. While it was more physical for me when I was a little bit younger. Yeah. So it was like an interesting
but, like,
mix.
The impact is so different on every kid.
Yeah.
You can't predict.
So it's like you can't predict what's good and what's bad for a kid. Like, because there's like kids that get so much love from the parents and they turn out to be like trash. Yeah. It's just like,
I've seen plenty of those. And it's just they're like, overly spoiled.
Yeah, it's like overly spoiled and like maybe that's and then they rebel so much because they're overly protected. It's like you want to protect your kids, but they're not protecting too much to be like, they want to rebel, and then you don't want to tell your kids that they can't do this because they're never going to rebel. Then if you tell them they can do it, they're probably going to do stupid shit, and then you have to be like, I should have told you this when you were younger, that you shouldn't do this.
There's like a line you have to draw, and it's so hard to draw it, which is why being a parent's like the hardest thing in the world, and it's underrated, I think, in terms of how hard it is. I've been seeing a lot of this now that I'm 22, and like I keep seeing people that I went to high school with, people that I graduated with,
having kids,
starting families, having kids, getting married. It is scaring the shit out of me.
It's weird. It's weird to me because I always say I don't want to put my perspective on somebody else. So it's like for me, I'm like, I would have at least wait until after college.
Yeah.
And like you like you studied all you need to study for what you have, what you want your career to be, and like just whatever aspect of like your hobbies or whatever you want to like
some people
experience.
Though, and I get that.
Yeah, some people aren't like that, so I have to remember that too. So, and then certain things just happen. Sometimes you can't just predict stuff, and something happens in your life, and then you have to start from square one again.
Right.
So like I try to not go a little bit too hard on people that get it, but like from me, it's like I look at relationships a little bit more. I wouldn't say more than most people, but like a little bit with more care.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's the relationships you have between the people you have relationships is very important.
Yeah.
And you should try your best to keep them.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately in my life, some of the relationships I had were negative, like very negative relationships where like I thought they were my friends, or like thought they actually cared about me, and it's just like you hear that they were talking crap about you the whole time you were friends, and it's just like so it's just like you think about it, and it's like I value my relationships. That's why like if I say you're a friend, I really mean it.
Yeah.
I don't. If I say I love you, I really mean it. Like and some terms are just so easily used today. And like, oh, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's like, I get it, but I get it, but yeah, I don't think you understand. And then again, love's broad, so your version of what love is not my version of love, so can't judge people for that either.
Right.
So again, goes into the whole. It's all perspective.
We have
and
to
all
call this podcast Perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call it. It's going to be Grammys and Perspective.
It's exactly what this is about.
Because it's all about perspective, and then you empathizing with people's views on certain things, and then we can even talk about our whole Grammy conversation, like what we didn't like and what we thought was like horrible. Somebody different from us would be like, "Oh my god, I love the show.
It was fantastic.
It was fantastic. The best Grammys ever. Right. Like I was tired of all these political moments that were going on in the show. I just wished it was more like Bruno Mars' performance and Rihanna's performance. Didn't want to
see that. Some people wanted more of a
entertainment and more of me escaping, me escaping the world I'm living in.
Yeah, I think that I brought that up earlier, but in a sense, I find myself conflicted with that too, because on one hand, I want to be entertained. I want to be entertained, and I want to be distracted, and I want to listen to music that makes me feel good. And then other times, I want to sit down and listen to an artist like Kendrick, and I want to really delve myself entirely into his perspective and the way that he's talking about social issues and political issues. So it can be hard to make it entirely about one or the other, which is why I think it was so strange watching it last night, because there were sections of it that were entirely political, and it was like sometimes maybe even over the top with how much they were kind of trying to put it in your face, and then other times that were like, whoa, why isn't this conversation being had? Like, why is this being skipped over? I think they were trying to find a balance there, and I don't know if I agree with the execution of it. I don't think they found that balance. I think it was just even more polarizing. It was more divisive. There was no middle ground. It was like entirely political, or it was entirely not, but there was no
middle ground.
Yeah, gray area. None of that.
So, and then people opposite of us would be like, oh, I thought the staging of everything, great job. And
you guys are too picky.
We can have a whole conversation about that. Like, it's just interesting. Well, Sophia, this has been a great conversation. We talked a long time. This is probably the longest podcast I've ever had. But
how long is it?
I don't even know. But we had breaks in between, so it's probably was interesting. But I really appreciated this conversation. Thank you for coming. It's been a while, so I feel like that's the reason why we had so much to say to each other, since it's been such a long time for us to even talk to each other for the podcast. But before we leave, I just want you to give just give you one more last question, and then ask you to give like your social media out so people can follow you.
Absolutely.
So this last question that I want to ask, speaking as an artist, and your creativity, and you just trying to find your own voice, which is you're in the process of it now. What dream collaborations would you want to have in your career, and what do you think? Speaking of the whole Jennifer Hudson and her becoming Aretha Franklin for a biopic, what would working with these artists, what would that have an effect on your artistry?
Well, if I could, so first dream collab, right? If I could have a dream collab with any artist, that is the hardest question in the world. Well, there's a few. Can I name a few?
Yes, you can.
Okay. In terms of vocalists, my favorite male vocalist, his name is Samir Gadia. Do you know Young the Giant?
Young the Giant. Is that more of rock?
Indie rock.
Indie rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He is one of my favorite male vocalists. He's got, whenever you get a chance, look up, what's a good one to give you? Oh goodness, it's called Mirrorball. Mirrorball by Young the Giant.
Okay.
Put that on your playlist or something. He has the most beautiful, like, honey-like voice. I would love to duet with him. Like, do some sort of collaboration because I love their music. It's one of my favorite bands in the world, and he's one of my favorite vocalists in the world. If I could do a dream collab with him, I think he's probably my ultimate. Like, I'm in love with him. And then Ed Sheeran. I think we have relatively similar, like, writing styles, and I really love his lyricism, and I respect him so much as an artist. I think he has literally come from nothing, and I admire that so much because there's so many manufactured artists in the industry. And that's not something that's talked about too much, but some of the biggest names in the industry came from wealth, and they came from their daddy or their mommy or whoever knowing somebody in the industry that got them to where they are. And like, I'm not denying any of the hard work that they've put in, but it's been so much easier for them to have a footing in the industry because of where they already started. And he's one of the few artists that was homeless for, like, I think 2 years or something. He was living on his friend's couches, and, like, he didn't have anything. And the first time I ever saw him was right after he released A-Team, when it was, like, his first, like, single that became popular. He opened up for Taylor Swift at MetLife Stadium, and I went with my mom. This was, like, back in high school, actually. And he came out on stage, this huge, huge arena stage with just a guitar, and he started singing with a loop pedal. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anybody use a loop pedal. And the act that had come up before him had, like, a band, like, had a whole thing, and he came up with just a guitar and his voice and his orange microphone and started singing and put on one of the biggest shows I've ever seen in my life. Sound-wise, performance-wise, energy-wise, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life, one of my favorite performances I've ever seen, and it was just one person. And he had, like, a sheet behind him with just his face on it. It was, like, his album cover, and that was it. There were no, like, real, like, there wasn't any lighting work that was done. There was no choreography, like, none of that. It was just very raw and, like, so emotional, and he put so much into his performance, and I have, like, admired the hell out of him since I saw that. And just learning more about him and finding out just exactly how hard he's worked to get to where he is. I respect him, like, so much. I would love to collaborate, and I would love to write with him. If I could write a song with him, that would be one of the coolest things in the world. And I'd have to say Lorde is my last one. Her latest album, Melodrama, when she first came out, I had heard her music, and I liked it. I thought it was really cool. It was a jam. But I hadn't really delved too much into her stuff. And then after she released Melodrama, I gave it a really good listen through, and I fell in love with it, and I ended up finding a respect for her as an artist that I hadn't really gotten before when she released Pure Heroine. And yeah, I think she's a phenomenal artist. I think she's a phenomenal writer, and I love her performance style. She's super weird. And she does a lot of, like, claw stuff with her hands. She's, like, super eccentric. But she's very unapologetic in her eccentricity.
Yes.
And I really like that about her. So I would love to collaborate with her. So those are like my top 3. I know you asked for 1, but those are top 3 for sure. And then what was the other question?
How would those collaborations affect your creativity?
I think they would help me to be more eclectic as an artist. And in a weird way, I feel like working with those artists, or even just one of them, would be such a big stepping stone for me to really hone my own sound. Mm-hmm. Because it's getting inspiration like that from somebody who's so well seasoned, who could really kind of put me in the right direction, a step in the right direction at least. And if I had the opportunity to work with any of them, I think that would just help me grow. It's so vital to me to learn from other artists. Every time I've ever had any kind of co-write, it has opened me up so much to different writing styles and to different techniques that I hadn't tried before. And I would love to gain any of those artist perspectives in some way.
Can you just give everybody your social media and just if just you can talk about the single coming out soon or anything that you have coming out?
Sure. I don't have anything coming out as of right now that's planned, but I do have a lot of ideas and plans, or semi-plans, for this upcoming year, or this year, upcoming. It's here now. And I really want to release music this year. I really want to do more shows. So just be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for SOF Music Monthly. The first one's coming out on Friday. And aside from that, my first single was released a year ago today. So please go out, check that out. Just go to sofmusic.com. If you go to the music tab of the website, it'll give you a list of all of the singles that were released last year. And if you click on any one of them, it'll direct you to a separate site that allows you to find, whichever platform you want to stream it on or download it. It'll take you to a page that you could click on iTunes, Apple, whatever it is that you use to listen to music. And aside from that, my website, sofmusic.com, sofmusic.com, and my Facebook and Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and SoundCloud are all website names / Music Official. And the only thing that's different is my Twitter, because I couldn't fit the handle. It's Sof_music. I hate having an underscore. It actually makes me depressed. I really wanted to be SOF Music or SOF Music Official or some variation of that. And they were all either taken or doesn't fit. The L in official doesn't fit in my Twitter name.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
So I'm depressed about it. So I'm Sof_music. But if you can excuse that, you can, follow me, check out my music. I have 6 singles out and definitely more planned to come out this year. And I want to have some videos out this year too, so be on the lookout for that stuff. And I think that's all of my social media.
Okay. Yeah. And you guys can always follow me at Millennial Tones Podcast on Instagram. If you search for Millennial Tones in Instagram, it should pop up. And then if it does pop up, just put in Welcome to the Wavelength, and that should direct you right to the page. And you can follow me personally on my Instagram at dwrita, which is d.writa on Instagram. If you want to give me suggestions for songs to listen to, and see any reaction video requests you would want, anything you would need to ask, you can always contact me there. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you so for being here again.
Thank you for having me.
I enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
And I'll be back next week with you guys. So have a nice day. Thanks for listening.